and welcome to another episode of Video Game Logic. Today's show was recorded on September the 26th, 2017. I'm your host, Gaming Psychologist, and with me, as always, I don't even know, the most beautiful distraction in the world, I guess?
Look, a two-headed monkey! And also Caffeine Rage.
On today's show, we will, of course, be discussing the games that we played. We'll have our monthly game club, which is Crossout. We'll discuss our next game club game. PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds exec contemplates further action over Fortnite Battle Royale similarities. Warner Brothers Backpedals from its Charity Kerfuffle. We'll have our weekly community corner and our Steam weekly discovery queue. As always, timestamps will be in the show notes following their respective topics. And my god, that was probably the biggest mouthful of topics we've ever had. There's 10, and several of them are many words long. Also, I made it in one take. Bam.
But
Booyah.
But to gay?
It's fine. I wasn't stopping. I just wasn't going to stop.
Oh,
it'll be fine.
You can't stop the Jared?
Don't stop me now. Having such a good time. Having a ball. You know, I bought a new mic today that will be here Thursday. So, starting next week, you'll be able to hear me sing with even crisper and cleaner tones. Because this is a real, legitimate, nice, expensive recording microphone as opposed to my, I don't know, cheap Amazon microphone that I've been using. Which sounds pretty good, but not as good as it could.
Yeah, but clear and crisp tones? What, are you bringing someone else to sing as well?
Yeah, they came with the mic. I get a trial voice for a while to use, but I'm gonna have to send that part back because I can't afford the subscription fees.
Well, don't worry. You just have to pay $2,000 for all the virtual currency.
Oh god, yep, that one wasn't even on the topics list because we don't understand basketball games enough to know how much people are getting ripped off.
Yeah, but we understand that they're getting ripped off, just not how much.
Yeah. Fuck 2K.
Yeah, and the winner of the Fuck You Award already is 2K Games.
We're off to a good start. There might be a couple of those based on our pre-show ramblings whenever we were talking specifically about the PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds thing, which we'll get to that later, but...
Yeah, if the games industry comes up, or keeps this up, we're going to have to make the Gilded Bird Award.
As part of our rewards show, or our award show, we can be like, and the company that got the biggest fuck you this year.
And then Jim Sterling just bursts in and says Konami and runs off.
If Jim Sterling wants to burst in here, I would gladly give it to Konami.
Yeah, but we're not even talking about the recordings for you.
If he just wants to come in here, I'll be fine. I'll be fine with that.
Oh my.
Wink.
Well, we're completely off track already.
Yeah. It's going to be one of those nights, it seems.
Well, I've had my coffee. You've had some sleep.
Well rested. I had a rough weekend, let's say. I'm not going to go into the details. I mean, you know what's going on, but I don't really feel like talking about it, but I had a very rough last 3 days. So I went to bed early last night. I took it easy at work today. I ate a really big filling dinner. I'm good.
And then I had a good BM.
The only thing we're going to have to do is stop and take a bathroom break because we sat down to start all of this almost an hour ago.
I blame myself.
I blame you too this week. It's fine. We were just having a nice friendly chat in one of the Franken episodes. You guys will get to hear it. Most of that's going to be able to go in, so.
Yeah, which is kind of the point of just starting the recorder up early. Granted, it's not as good a quality, but you're kind of used to that already, aren't you?
It sounds pretty good.
Well, I was talking about content-wise.
Oh, nah, we make great content.
The best content?
The best content. Without the tiniest hands.
Oh, my.
And it's see-through. We're not going to get into that. Go to the Franken episode whenever it comes out. You can hear our entire conversation about that.
Yeah, plus your reaction of, what? That's probably the best part.
Yeah,
I love it when I just blow your mind like that.
Oh, I love when you blow something. Ink.
I need an adult.
Yeah, you do. Let's start the show. I think. I mean, we did our intro, but we haven't really started the show. Let's start the show. Rage, what games have you been playing this week?
Oh, well, let's start off with something I haven't played this week.
Okay.
The Incredible Adventures of Van Helsing 3. Shit's broken, yo. I'm not sure if it was the Windows update, if it was the graphics cards update, or if it was just Van Helsing randomly shitting itself like some people were saying in the reviews and in the forums, but it broke. Not just, little game bug that, was impeding progress. I mean, broke. A matter of fact, I should have done this beforehand, but I'm going to start an upload of my last few screenshots, and I want you to look at them while I'm chattering away about the game itself. They should be uploaded in the next few seconds.
Okay.
And these are all from a few days ago. The game just was completely broken on DirectX 11. DirectX 9, it would work, but it would refuse to latch into my recording software. And OpenGL was giving me a quarter of the frame rate that I was recording at before, so I was getting 20-ish FPS.
Okay.
Yeah, so slightly unplayable. And have you found the screenshots yet?
No, did you upload them on Steam?
Yeah, they're on Steam. Just go to your activity and you should see me just upload 3 screenshots for the Incredible Adventures of Van Helsing 3.
Okay, here they are. It just I had to refresh this. Oh. Okay, so that one looks like it should be the ocean.
That's the game world. It's not rendering any of the game geometry whatsoever.
That one looks mostly black.
The mostly black one, the middle one, is the character select screen.
And this one is the options menu, but a lot of the options menu is it's just white.
Yeah, shit's broken, yo.
Very broken.
So you can see why I discontinued this game. And I could have probably sat down and figured this out, likely having to revert a Windows update, which is, so much fun to do, but I wasn't particularly enjoying this anyway, so fuck it. So let's talk a little bit about the gameplay before everything went to shit.
Okay.
This has to be the most lackluster combat I've encountered in an action RPG, bar none. I was up to, I think, in the low teens on my episodes, and my combat cycle, going in and doing this, in actual combat, hadn't changed since episode 1. And each one of my episodes is 25 to 30 minutes of gameplay.
Okay.
It hadn't meaningfully changed since the first half hour of gameplay. And most of that is possibly due to just the class being very powerful that I was playing, but also exceptionally boring, as you just summon a bunch of robots and they do all your bidding. And your primary attack has absolutely no weight behind it because it's a laser beam that has no sound effects to it. And the secondary attack is sort of this bullet spray that does a okay amount of damage, but it's very short range and has the accuracy of... Actually, I don't even know something that's this inaccurate. That's...
Stormtroopers.
No, this would make a stormtrooper look accurate.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like a 90-degree cone going out to something. And it's not just, like aerospray out of Divinity where, it's, hitting the entire cone. It just sends out a bullet, then sends out another, then sends out another. Oh, it's not good. And the thing is, also, I wanted to go through this just to see what they were doing with the story, because this was the third chapter of a trilogy. And it feels like they kind of were, well, it was all stuffing and no meat, if you want to use a Thanksgiving analogy.
Okay.
Where the first story, it was all about trying to overthrow this mad scientist who is enslaving the people of, fuck if I can remember or care. Then, in the power vacuum, after throwing over the scientist, oh, by the way, spoilers, there's a general from his old army that rises up to become essentially a dictator, and you have to deal with him. And in this, you also get this partner who is very mysterious and very powerful, and at the end of things, he betrays you. Ooh. And then, in the third game, you're off doing random fuck all, and I've even heard from the guy that was supposed to be my nemesis, who there's a very almost sexual tension between from Van Helsing about wanting to go after this guy. I mean, you could almost see the raging ardor under all that armor, you know.
a classic will they won't they scenario.
Oh, they will. It's just, depending on the definition of will. And just because of the lack of focus, the kind of boring gameplay, and the fact that shit's broken, I'm going to have to give this a thumbs down. Yeah. I would say 6 out of 10 on the modern review scale.
That's atrocious, my friend.
Exactly. And also kind of a slap in the face on the modern review scale.
Indeed. All right. Well, what else you got then?
All right. Well, remember how you missed me being mad about video games and shitting on them? Boy, this your week.
Okay.
We have Niche, a genetic survival game. And this was, I can't say it was provided by Kyle because this was a review copy, but Kyle kind of nudged me as wanting to say, how's this game? Because it looks kind of interesting.
It does look neat. I'll give it that.
Rather boring. It's very, very, very slow paced. But also, my biggest problem with this game is just how they handle information. They went over, style over substance. A lot of the information about your fox things is hidden in the genome. And in order to access that, you have to open up their genetic file and be able to look to see, okay, what is this thing doing? Because there is a general overview, but it doesn't tell you everything. Like, for example, in one of my playtests, I recruited, hired, whatever. You give them some food from your stockpile, and they join your little tribe thing. This one little fuzzy fox thing. Because they're all fuzzy fox things. That's the niche, I guess. As a matter of fact, I'm not even sure if they give them a proper species name, but that's probably beside the point. And I was trying to figure out, okay, why the hell can this guy not move properly? Because he can only move to where my other creatures are. Well, turns out he was blind. As a genetic defect, not, just he was old. And it doesn't say that in his overview. I had to go digging around his genome to see, oh, he has the blind eyes trait. Well, that's less than useful. And the only way that I could get him to move was to switch modes. Think of it sort of detective vision. The world goes all gray, and you're going between sight, smell, and hearing. And because he's blind, he has to constantly be switching back to his smell or his hearing in order to move around because, can't see shit. And it made it very, very cumbersome. And also, well, for one, he's kind of a dead weight, but also, my tribe was very small at the time. And my primary problem beyond just hiding information is that there's really no time to really figure out, okay, do I want to try to breed him and maybe work this trait out on further generations, or just deal with it because of lifespans. Now, this is a science game, so having limited lifespans on all your units is kind of an expected thing. But all the lifespans are 30 days, which turns into 30 turns because this is a turn-based hexagonal survival game. Think sort of you throw Civ into a survival game almost.
Okay.
And it makes your trying to do really anything, especially in the early game, but even mid game, it's going to be tedious to even try to deal with beyond just having a select core of breeders, which doesn't seem like a good idea for genetic diversity. It makes it so that you're having to focus. Okay, these two are going to be fucking the entire time. Oh, sorry, mating the entire time, and the entire tribe is going to be their offspring. And then we're going to have to try to recruit someone and hope that the luck of the draw makes it so that they are decent enough that we could, get them to bang for the next generation. And it adds a sense of urgency, yes, but it also, really takes away a lot of the strategic element because, you have such a limited time, and all the creatures have a limited number of moves naturally because it is a turn-based game, and depending on their genetic makeup, it could go from one action a turn, which includes moving, by the way, to 3 actions. Damn. So it makes it incredibly tedious.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah.
Your only action is to move for a turn.
Yeah, I had one creature that its only action was able to move, then it could dig up fruit. And so, guess who's not getting fucked this generation?
That guy. Or girl. It'd be a girl.
And also, there's probably my most nitpicky thing I've ever going to say about a game is just the way all the characters looked. As in, not, art style or anything, but all the creatures are sitting there and they're constantly looking towards the cursor. And you move the cursor, all the heads swivel. And it's just creepy.
Yeah, that would be like funny for 5 minutes, and then afterwards it would be.
On top of that, these creatures could turn their heads in ways that owls would only dream of. As in, you circle a creature and it follows it all the way around like The Exorcist. I was expecting at one point its head just to pop off.
Nice.
And it's just so creepy. Very, very nitpicky, but if you're able to sit with this game and get past its information, for one, hiding information, but two, not really telling you what is pertinent, because there's some things that it talks about the pattern of the fur. It says helps with camouflage. Well, that's great. How does it help with camouflage? Oh, you're not going to tell me that.
Well, it helps. Don't you see?
It helps with camouflage. Well, yeah, but how does it help? No. It helps with camouflage. You're not helping with it. No, it helps with camouflage. Yeah. And it probably doesn't help with camouflage or otherwise. That the tutorial is pretty much your very basic, okay, this is how the camera moves, this is how you move your characters. Oh, yeah, there is a different modes for, looking with your eyes, smelling with your nose, or hearing with your ears. And be sure not to mix those two, because that's a genetic defect. Actually, I wonder if that is in the game, because there is, a defect with the brain where you would be able to like taste sounds and that sort of thing. No, I'm not joking. That is a thing.
Taste sounds. Okay. Interesting. All right.
I'm not making that up. There is a thing where brain trauma could cause your senses to become essentially cross the wires.
Yeah, I've seen that before, but just hearing you say taste sounds made me laugh.
Yeah, this tastes like a bullfrog sounds. This tastes like a siren. Uh, yeah, if you want to sit with this game, it's probably not bad. It's just it's very slow. And it also really encourages you to just throw animals together and try to really just what the best that you have or think you have to hope that things work out. Maybe if they had it where the lifespans were also a gene, because guess what? They're not. Everything is 30 days on the clock. Well, I shouldn't say on the clock, because also, and this is something else that's kind of odd, is that damage that your character takes, or your characters, or whatever, little fox fuckers. Actually, that's kind of a literal sense as well, now that I think about it. Damage that they take can also shorten their lifespan. So your hunters may have a lifespan of 20 days, maybe 15, if they're in a place where they're taking a lot of damage and they're having to get healed up. So you can see why I'm a little not impressed.
Yeah, that doesn't sound so great.
I mean, it's a good concept. It's just not handled all that well. Speaking of good concepts and not handled all that well, let's move on to Super Fancy Pants Adventure.
Okay.
Didn't fancy this one. Yes, I'm being very negative this week.
Was it pants?
No, what was pants was the content.
As the Brits say.
Well, in both sense of the words. Well, I shouldn't say I didn't like this one, because I actually really, really like this game. It's just, it has a 2-hour story, or campaign, or whatever. 2 hours. For a $10 platform.
That is short.
Yeah, there should have been Super Fancy Shorts Adventure. And yes, I made that joke in the Franken episode, if it's still there.
Yep. Not as funny the second time.
Don't worry. I was thinking the same thing as you, so it wasn't that funny this first time.
I-ho.
But yeah, that's my main complaint about it, because otherwise it's a very good platformer. It's just there's not a lot there. And boy, did I get ringed for pointing that out in my review. People do not like the fact that I didn't like their beloved game. Granted, this is probably about the 5th or 6th game in the series, accounting the original Flash games that were released in the mid-knots, or whatever you call the double O's, 2000s or whatever. So, I guess people that are going to this are expecting, this is going to be a very short game, but it's going to be fun. Well, yeah, but the indie platformer scene is very, very overrun with platformers these days.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
I mean, it's not like 2006 when this first came out, where you had this Mario and your few other mainstream platformers, because back then platformers were kind of a rare breed. Well, I shouldn't say a rare breed, but it was the big names, and that was about it. You didn't really have the ending scene that you did these days. So there wasn't much competition. But now, I would say, even just now I'm completely blanking on the name. There's a game that has a very similar movement system that it's
no
janitors.
Idea. It's what?
It's a bunch of janitors. And I'm looking at my indie at my platformer section, and that's a very long list.
Yeah, I can't really help there, because platformers are not my thing. They're one of the things that are not my thing.
Yeah, it turns out platformers and clowns. Yeah, and the name is on the tip of my tongue, but I just cannot think of it, which is irritating. Don't you hate it when that happens?
Yes, I do. That happens to me plenty.
What, things being on the tip of your tongue?
Yeah, they are.
But it's really, there's not a lot to talk about this, because it is a very good platformer, but there's just so little there that it's hard to really even think about recommending it outside of fans of the genre, because damn, I played for 45 minutes before my video, and I beat 2 bosses.
Well, that is pretty far. That's a lot of stuff to beat in 45 minutes, I feel like.
Yeah, well, it's not the game that I was thinking of, but speedrunners would also be a good kind of analog to this. Yeah, a very fast platforming, but also easy if you take it slow, but if you spend a lot of time with it, you're able to get some really satisfying movement and a lot of neat combos and different jumps and tricks, that sort of thing. Dust Force, that's what I was thinking of. Dust Force.
Okay.
You have no idea what the hell Dust Force is, do you?
Not a clue.
But yeah, Dust Force also has sort of the similar feel. And those are two games that have a hell of a lot more content than this. Oh, I was really disappointed by this because I saw everyone talking about how much they loved it, and then I didn't read the reviews or the forums until afterwards. I just saw, I went to the Steam page and saw, very positive. Well, yeah, this looks fun. I got a review copy of this. Let's try it out. Especially after spending a couple hours trying to get my head around niche and figure out what the hell. Just something quick to be able to knock out, and turns out, boy, was I right on that one. Very quick.
All right,
and last one on my list is the Blackwell Legacy. This, I originally got this to do on my channel, but it just doesn't play well with really any recording software, so I decided to play it on my own, and it's a very short game. It's only a couple hours, and it's the first of 5 games that have a interlocking story. The Blackwell Legacy, it's a... I don't want to call it a detective game, maybe out of spite, because the main character is a writer, but she is haunted by the ghost of... I guess you would call him a detective, but it's also... He acts more like a 1940s, 1950s mobster. First thought on this game, if they were still making these games, I would make a donation to them of a pop filter.
Okay.
Especially towards the end of the game, because I beat the Blackwell Legacy in probably about 2.5, 3 hours. I have 4.4 hours played, but that's also, trying to get recording software to play nice with it, so that's not indicative of how long I actually played it. There were sections of the game where it was hard to understand what a couple of the characters were saying because they did not invest in the magic of the pop filter. So you had those hard P's, those hard D's, those hard B's.
Right.
And it makes you wonder just how the hell anyone missed that. And that's a real shame because outside of that, the voice acting's not bad. It's definitely not the worst, but it's not amazing as some people were talking about. But then again, it did originally come out in 2006, so yeah, maybe it's good by 2006 standards. And
maybe so.
I'm not really comparing it to the day and age. It is also very hard to get running well on a modern system. I had to actually go in to a separate configuration tool and tell it to run in windowed mode because it does not run in full screen in Windows 10. It blacks out.
Can you do borderless window? Full screen borderless window?
No, that's way too high tech for this older game.
Ah, I see. I feel like some old games had that though.
I was being sarcastic.
Oh, okay.
It's not a bad
sarcasm
game.
On that one.
It has the sort of the got you moments that some of the older point and click games have, and I hope as I go through the series, because that's my intention on the next probably month or a half or so, to go through the Blackwell series to just see what the overarching story is. Because the first part is more of an introduction to the characters, and it's not a great introduction whenever the protagonist, Rosa Blackwell, a writer for a small independent newspaper, is being kind of pushed around by a teenage hoodlum. Not exactly.
Hoodlum.
Yeah, hoodlum.
Nice.
Not exactly a strong start, especially when he's acting as the doorman of the apartment, but he doesn't know her, and she doesn't know who the hell anyone is, even though she's lived there for 5 years. It's not, like I said, not a great start, but I'm hoping that the later ones of this series are better. And it's also a very cheap game. I mean, it's $5 normally, and usually whenever the bundle goes on sale, it's sub 10. So it's worth it if you don't mind the older style of point and click. It's definitely not a Telltale game.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because
yes,
of the old. Okay.
I mean, even the newer Telltale games that were, I should say, newer point and click style, they were still very straightforward. There was a couple times that I had to look up what the hell, because I knew what I needed to do. It's just I wasn't thinking the way that the game developer was to get my character to do it. For example, I would say approximately halfway through, it was obvious that my ghost companion, Joey. Wait for a laugh, because Ghost Joey. No? Okay.
No, sorry. No laughs.
Don't worry, I'm used to it. My companion was supposed to make some sort of distraction. But because I didn't ask him to show me his ghostly powers in my apartment, my character didn't know that, he's able to make a distraction, even though, it would be obvious, well, do some sort of distraction, And there was a couple of times, there was one time where you left a place and you had to immediately go back because time changed.
Okay.
Just very kind of older point and click style design, which I'm not sure if it's just old school or if it's just that the point and click genre has kind of moved on. Well, do we even consider the newer Telltale games point and click or more interactive adventure nowadays?
Because
Telltale's really gone to a very quick time event sort of thing, haven't they?
Yeah, they have. I mean, I think of the old ones as point and clicks, but
yeah, but I'm talking about like post Walking Dead. I think would be a good cutoff.
They don't feel like point and clicks. Maybe if you change the definition or say like modern point and click, but really I don't think so. I think they're more just adventure games, quick time event games. I don't know the best way to say it, but I mean, they're definitely not point and clicks.
Yeah, which is a kind of a disappointment whenever Telltale kind of made the revolution of point and clicks, or I shouldn't say revolution, but kind of brought point and clicks back to the forefront and then turned into sort of a license bill. Very disappointing. Sad.
Indeed. Very sad.
Okay. Yeah,
cool.
I think I'm done here.
All right. Awesome.
Yeah,
well, I have...
Yeah, my games were... one was exceptionally short.
Yeah. I have quite a few games to cover. I have 7 to be exact. And I'm going to start with my 2 mobile games, both of which are racing games. The first one is called Skidstorm.
Did you get another pair of underwear for that?
Joke's on you. I'm not wearing underwear right now.
But... I've been foiled. And blinded.
Anyways, this is an early access mobile game, but it is incredibly fun. It's basically arcade drifting from a top-down view. There's a whole bunch of cars that you can unlock as you level up. And there's... How many different tracks are there? There's like 25 or 26 different tracks that vary in length and difficulty. It's super arcadey in the sense that like there's shortcuts everywhere on most of the longer tracks, and you build up turbo boost as you drift successfully around corners that you can use to, pass other drivers. It's got a really long single player career mode. I think it's 32 races that you can do. And then you get ranked on them like, the traditional like 3 stars. Like basically if you win the race, you get 3 stars. And then beyond that, you can go back and redo the races with better cars and beat like ghost times. And if you beat the top ghost time, then you get 3 crowns.
Spooky.
You get rewards. You get rewards for each level that you get. So the maximum rewards is to win the race and beat the top ghost time, which gives you 3 base rewards and then 3 premium currency rewards, which would be 15 diamonds, which are the premium currency. Because, mobile game, free to play. Of course, there's premium currency. And then it also has a multiplayer racing mode that is pretty good. Games are pretty quick on average. You can get a game in 15, 20 seconds. The races last 2 minutes tops. The skill of players varies wildly, as it does in these games. That whenever you do single race, either in the career mode or just in the single race to grind out some rewards, the AI is pretty consistent in their difficulty, but players are all over the place. So, in general, I tend to find myself being one of the better players in the matches, and I'm not sure if that's just because, I'm just getting lucky and getting matched with shitty people because I'm using the lower level cars, or if I'm actually just better than the people that are playing it right now. Maybe, all the good people have gotten to the higher tiers in the multiplayer, because I'm in Bronze 2.
Zoom tight.
I have no idea how many different tiers that there are. But it took me a while to get there, so it's a really fun multiplayer game that I've put a fair amount of time in. You can totally sit down and play it as a toilet game for 4 or 5 minutes at a time, or you can just play it sitting on the chair. It does not restrict you. It doesn't do that thing where it's you can only open so many of your rewards chests at a time. You can just open as many as you want. You have 5 instant opens that regenerate every few minutes, and then once you use up all of your keys to instantly open rewards chest from the multiplayer mode, you can just watch an ad to get a couple more instant opens. So the single player stuff, there you don't have to spend anything or use any time like those. You can just get immediately. The only thing that I really don't like about it is that you can't just outright buy a car. Each car is made up of several different parts, which you can upgrade to increase the performance of your car, but in order to unlock a car, you have to get all of the parts of the car, a la loot box style.
Ugh.
You get the first 4 cars by playing the career mode, so they're all kind of there's one that's really fast, and there's one that's really good off-road, there's one that's really good on-road, and there's one that's a jack-of-all-trades car. So you get a decent amount of variety right there, and I'm the multiplayer rankings, I think that it's one of those things that evens out, and then you won't be racing against people who have the best cars unless you've either bought a shit ton of premium currency to unlock them or have just worked your way into them. But it level gates all that stuff. I'm level 5 right now, and the top car, the highest level right now is level 29, which has the best car in the game at that level. So, or I wouldn't say the best car at the game, because even at that level, it's the cars definitely vary wildly on their stats. Like I said, there's cars that are good on-road, there's cars that are good off-road, because most of the tracks are sort of rallycross style. So you have on-road sections, you have off-road sections, you have jumps. A lot of the shortcuts are off-road. So it's a fun multiplayer game that I enjoy playing. My kid likes to watch me play it. He's terrible at it, but he thinks it's fun anyways. The soundtrack's pretty good too. It's just a nice rock soundtrack that sounds good and doesn't get overbearing despite the fact that there's only 2 songs. It might just be that I don't play this game for more than 5 or 10 minutes at a time. But found it this weekend, and I'm glad I did, because I spent a lot of time playing mobile games this weekend as opposed to other games. But it's fun. It's good.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't be able to tell that from your list.
Yeah, well, a lot of these games I played on my laptop, too. That helps. The next game that I played, though, is simply called Turn-Based Racing. This is another mobile game.
Yeah, and it looks like it's exactly what it says on the tin.
It is. It's a really interesting way to do a racing game, and it's turn-based. So you are in control of your car, and you have this little area that you put, you drag your thumb around in to determine the way that your car is going to drive. So if you drag it all the way to the end, your car is accelerating. You can move it left or right for your car to turn. and you have a line on screen that shows you where your car is going to go. And the green is where your car is going to go during that turn. The yellow is your trajectory if you just like drove straight for your next turn, and then it turns red if it indicates that you're going to crash into something. Because like once you get off of the track, it just becomes like immediate crash. Like if you even clip like the bollards or something for a turn, it counts it as like you've crashed into a wall or something. Which that can be frustrating, because if you want to hug the apex of a corner, if you hug it just a little too closely, then you're going to crash your car into the invisible wall. So that sucks, but it has a pretty good grasp of real-world car physics. I mean, oversteer and understeer are a thing. If it's much more efficient to brake or accelerate in a straight line versus doing so in a corner. You can't just chuck your car into a tight turn at 100 miles an hour, arcade style, and expect to be fine.
Well, at least with that attitude.
Each turn lasts for about 2 seconds, 2 to 3 seconds. It's like somewhere in there. It doesn't vary. It's just it might be exactly 2 seconds, and it feels like just a little bit longer. The only time that it takes longer than that is if you crash, and then 5 seconds pass if you crash before you can do another action. And every time you crash, it just immediately stops your car. So there's no like bouncing off of a wall. There's no like slow down because you went outside of the course. It just immediately stops.
No squeeching your corpse off the track?
No, none of that. There's also a variety of cars that you can unlock and upgrade. You earn currency. It's just a single currency, and then you can spend money to buy the single currency to unlock cars. But everything's level gated, so if you spend a ton of money, you can't just like buy a top tier car and blow through the single player or blow through all the races. And at least at this point, it's single player only, which I mean makes sense. I feel like this would be difficult to do to sync up with everyone, unless it's like everyone. It's like an asynchronous thing where everyone puts in their time, and then when it's over, you get like a notification on your phone or something. It's like, all right, here's the race results. It's got a replay mode where you can watch the race in real time, which is pretty neat. And then if you string your turns together fast enough, it basically plays out in real time, but that's really difficult to do. That only happens occasionally if you're just like got a big straight and you're like, okay, I'm accelerate, and you can watch those few turns happen in real time.
Oh crap, I accelerated too much. Break.
It lets you undo 2 moves at a time, so if you crash, it's like, well, maybe I could do something a little bit differently and avoid the crash. But usually 2 moves is not enough to undo your crash. You need like 3 or 4 because you accelerated for 1 turn too many, or a couple of like you set yourself up to corner improperly and you can't go back far enough to fix that. It's a good game. It's nice. It lets you take your time to think about how you wanna race and what you want to do and how you want to go about it. So, I mean, if you're looking for like a more, I don't know, traditional or like actual racing experience, this is not that. But I found the concept fascinating, like a turn-based racing game. Like, remember the board game that we played that was like the Formula One board game? Yeah,
that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, it gives me a lot of vibes around that. Like someone saw that and was like, I'd like to make a video game out of that. And this is what they came up with.
This looks a lot more interesting than that. Mostly because I had trouble with that just because it felt very, very random with no real ability to change things.
Yeah, there's no dice rolls or anything like that. You can't, like, there's not even contact with the other cars. Like, you just pass through each other.
Yeah, typically whenever there's a very dice-oriented game, there's usually some sort of mechanic to be able to alter the dice. So it's not just a pure random luck thing. And the board game, at least with how we played it, didn't have that. Maybe there was a rule that we were not messing with, or it just is a law of averages, and longer races does kind of average things out. But the thing is also, that was a very, very long lap that we did.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, there was an advanced rule set that we didn't use that involved like you being able to spend tokens. Basically, it's like you're pushing your car or whatever, and that allows you to kind of cancel out some of those bad dice rolls. But we didn't do any of that because it was like you had to keep track of all the parts on your car and everything, and it was super finicky. Like that was one of the points where like playing tabletop simulator is finicky with a keyboard and mouse. Because if you're doing it with your hands, that would be just much easier to work.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe if there was a better system in the game itself, or with the tabletop simulator version of it, to be able to handle everything, all the little tokens and everything.
Yeah. I'm going to edit my list just a teeny tiny bit, just to keep the car racing theme going.
Oh, we're still going to go Vroom?
Yeah, we're still going to go Vroom. The next game I'm going to talk about is Motorsport Manager. This is an F1... Well, the base game is a Formula One racing team manager game. So you're in control of the research for your vehicle and managing your drivers and sponsors and overall race control, like, you know, telling your drivers like when to pit and what tires to use and setting up the cars, like all of the technical behind the scenes stuff. And then the races itself, you get to watch them play out, but you don't have direct control over your drivers.
And then scream at the screen as your driver does something incredibly stupid.
My drivers are decent, but I mean, I'm still learning how to play the game. So basically, I picked the shittiest team. Like, it's got an extremely dynamic range of difficulty based on which team you pick to start the game with. So if you pick like the number one top team, that's great. You get the best sponsorships and the most money, but basically you have to win or nearly win like every race. Otherwise, you'll get fired as team manager. And then if you pick the shitty team, they're like, "Hey, you showed up. Good job, buddy. We're gonna give you a promotion." Because I've lost the 2 races I've done so far. I got so you have a driving team. You have 2 drivers. Mm-hmm. In both races, I got 18th and 19th place. So I didn't quite get last. But in the first race, that's because one guy blew his car up, or he blew his engine up. And in the second race, a driver stayed out too long and he blew all of his tires. So technically, I didn't get last by default. But like my team is like super happy with me, like, "Hey, you didn't get last. That's great." And my approval rating is like 90% as team manager.
It's not just the fact that you didn't get last. We actually finished a race.
We finished the race. We did better than that guy. So, again, as a rate, like, it is definitely a racing game, but if it's more for the not driving the cars, just the technical aspect and behind it. And it's really deep and really in depth. You can customize your cars a ton. You can pick, you can research and develop different parts for your cars and basically build parts over and over again until you get the best, like as your crew gains knowledge, you get the best parts and put them on your car, and then do maintenance on them so that they stay high quality, and you can really tweak your car's setup in a lot of different ways, like tire pressure, downforce, camber and caster on your wheels, gearing, like all kinds of stuff. You can build research facilities at like your team compound to give you even more options to do that stuff, and also increase like the knowledge of parts that you're researching so that they're higher quality. You can develop your car so that it's cheating and you're breaking the rules, and you can try and hide it so that if your car gets inspected, it reduces your chances of being caught cheating, or you can choose just like to not cheat and then never worry about that. There's a lot of stuff that you can do in depth on this game.
Yeah, I imagine one of the first researches for the really crappy teams is round wheels.
Nope. Actually, that's the only thing that my cars are good at. Is they're built in such a way that I can get an extra like 2 or 3 laps out of every set of tires. So that's good. The biggest issue I have with the game, honestly, is that when you pit, you can't refuel your car. You're given an amount of fuel at the start of the race.
Is it F1?
Yeah.
That's how they are.
No, you can refuel F1 cars. The rule is that you have to start the race with the same amount of fuel you used for qualifying in the real world. In the game, it doesn't make you do that, but you're only given a certain amount of fuel. And it's like, this is the fuel you get for the whole race. And you have to manage your fuel consumption by using different driving styles, which really sucks because I'd love to just be able to set a driver to aggressive and like suffer the consequences of having to pit more because I use more fuel. But whenever I set my better driver to an aggressive driving style, he does all right. I mean, he made it to 12th place in the last race when I had him set to aggressive. But then I was like, I'm gonna run out of fuel if I don't dial back his driving style. And then when that happened, he started getting passed.
From 2010, refueling is no longer permitted during the race for F1 cars. Every car starts with a fuel load.
Really?
Yes.
I did not know that. Okay.
So, there goes that one objection.
It's still an objection. I hate that. But, okay, I didn't realize that was a thing.
I believe they had some rather bad accidents with refueling, and that's why they did that.
They did, yeah. There's several videos online of like fuel fires that have started, and because of the type of fuel that they use, like it burns so hot there's no flame.
Yeah, or it's purely invisible, and it's just you see people dancing around, and you would think it would be funny until you realize, oh, that guy's burning to death.
I didn't know that was a thing. Okay, there's also GT car racing, and I think that's DLC. Yeah, the GT series. I don't know if there's refueling or not allowed in the GT series, but I don't have that DLC, so I can't tell you. But I want the GT series. I prefer GT racing to Formula 1 racing, but as far as like driver and racing management games go, this is about the only one out there. There's a couple others, but this is the best one that I've played, so.
Yeah, I'm just seeing if I'm not seeing anything about GT cars not refueling, so they most likely have that.
You can also create your own team, which I have not done that yet. I just picked one of the pre-made teams while I was learning. The tutorial is kind of a play-as-you-go thing, and it really fucks you over for the first race, because it has you do a bunch of stuff that basically wastes time and makes at least one of your drivers wind up in 19th place. But, I mean, it's teaching you how to play. It's also got this nifty feature that is like you can change between 2D and 3D mode. That way you can play this game on a shitty computer in 2D mode. It is pretty graphics intense and is eating up a lot of processing and GPU power. So I'm not sure how or why. I assume it's just because there's so much stuff going on because it's keeping track of all these different vehicles.
On the more sim side of things, so I imagine that it's just keeping track of a lot of things.
Yeah, that's my guess. So, but I mean, overall, it's a really good game. The biggest complaints that I have with it, like I said, which I didn't know that was a rule. So, I mean, it's trying to be a sim. So that makes sense to me now.
The reason why I know that that's a rule is that I've watched a couple of people play the F1 series, F1 driving games.
Yeah,
and they were commenting about their fuel load and having to make the entire race.
Yeah, you have to do that. Part of when you set up your car for the race is you do set up a fuel load, and I always just choose maximum fuel.
Well, now, one of the things is that, at least in the F1 series, which I imagine it's going to be in this as well, is changing the fuel mixture to be able to run rich or lean to either stretch out your fuel if you have too little or you're trying to make it last, I should say. And turning it up the mixture to be able to get more power.
Yeah, you actually can do that in this game. You have different engine like computer configurations that you can choose for your cars on the fly. And then you have different driving styles, and both of which affect fuel consumption and tire wear.
Yeah, and ideally you'd actually want to be crossing the finish line with about fumes in the tank. That way you're not carrying around a bunch of extra weight.
Yeah, because you can do weight stripping on your cars before a race too, which affects fuel consumption and speed. But it makes
you look
your
at
cars...
your driver and it's like, do you really need that big of breakfast?
But doing weight stripping on your car reduces its reliability. So basically, right now I'm just going full reliable and just finishing races because that's enough to keep everyone happy.
Yay, we finished another race!
But everything is broken down, and each race has 3 parts. You have like a well, I guess there's 4 parts. There's when you are in between racing events and you're actually at your race, I don't know, facility, and it allows you to set research and train your drivers and renew contracts. God, there's so many fucking contracts you have to renew. you can get like lead mechanics and your drivers and support staff and just on and on and on. There's like a big list, and I have like 40 contracts that I have to keep up with. And when you start the game, everyone's on like a 2-year contract, so you don't have to worry about it right at the beginning. But eventually, I'm gonna have to deal with all these contracts. So I mean, if you want a sim, like a racing team simulation game, this is it. It's great. But yeah, you've got that. Then you've got like a practice. So each event is broken down into 3 stages. There's a practice stage where you can run different, like it's like 30 minutes of real time where you can just run laps and you can do different configurations on your cars and you can figure out what the best setup is for the track. And your drivers and your crew chief and everybody reports like, oh, I think the car's set up pretty good for this, or nah, you probably should change this or that.
Shit's broken, yo.
And then you get bonuses that you can, they're called like knowledge boosts that you can give to your drivers, which helps them out during the race. Then there's a qualifying round, which is just, I think each of your drivers can run 3 qualifying laps. And then that determines their placement on the race or on the start grid. And then there's the actual race. And races, if you play them in normal time, take 30 to 45 minutes to play out. You can run them at double or quadruple speed, but that makes it a little bit more difficult to pay attention to what your drivers are telling you. Because during the race, they'll pop up notifications and be like, hey, something's not right. My car doesn't feel right. Then you can go check what the readouts are on your car and be like, oh, you should probably pit. Maybe we need to fix this. Or they'll be like, hey, my tires seem to be weighing faster for some reason. And you might have like bad tires, and so you should bring them in and change the tires faster rather than leaving them out. It's super in-depth. I love it. Love it a lot. Great game. Need to buy the GT car
You just
DLC.
want it so you could refuel.
That would help. Yeah, I'd like to be able to refuel. So yeah, that's the last of the car games.
Yeah, you should have saved those 3 for the last of your list. Then we could have moved on to another card game. But no.
Nope. So now we're going to move on to the sci-fi portion of my games. First up, XCOM Enemy Unknown. So I said that I wanted to go back and play the first one just to see how different that the XCOM 1 is from XCOM 2. And they are vastly different games. But in some ways, I like Enemy Unknown better than XCOM 2. I prefer the base building mechanics that are in Enemy Unknown versus the base building mechanics from XCOM 2. I like the fighters, where you have fighter craft to shoot down UFOs. I miss that. That was fun. And I'm using the Long War mod for XCOM Enemy Unknown as well. And that adds experience levels to your fighters, and you can have more and customize them a little bit more in depth. So I miss the fighters. And I do miss the way that Enemy Unknown displays your soldiers as you're actually commanding them during missions. It's got a little bit clearer readout of what cover is where, and I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's just like the color contrast or what, but I like that better. It's easier to understand. But in every other way, XCOM 2 is an improvement over XCOM 1. Beyond just graphics and voice work, those are better. There's more story in XCOM 2. The UI for XCOM is terrible. Like it's functional. I shouldn't say terrible. It's a product of a game that was made 6 or 7 years ago. It's just like design has come, has advanced since then, and this is just an older designed UI. It's a lot clunkier. Stuff is more difficult to get to. Like all of your shot percentages and your critical chance and everything, like that's all behind another menu you have to click through to see like how it all breaks down. Whereas XCOM 2 just has it all displayed for you. The fonts are a little weird. There's nothing you can do to organize your soldiers when you're in your base, which can make it really frustrating to scroll through and be like, okay, I'm looking for this type of troop, or I'm looking for soldiers with this much health, or this experience level. Like, I have no idea how it organizes your soldiers. Maybe alphabetically, but that's not useful, because I don't care what the randos' names are. I want to know like what their stats are and stuff, and there's no way to sort in Enemy Unknown. But, I mean, it's not a bad game. It's a really good game, and it runs on my laptop, so I play that some at work, or when I'm sitting in my recliner, and my PC is turned off in the office, and I don't want to get up and come in here and turn it on. So, I mean, I don't really have very much else to say about it. It's XCOM, and I've talked a ton about XCOM, but just...
Really?
It's still a good game that holds up pretty well. It's got, some stuff that obviously the second one has improved upon, but it's still a really solid game. And if, it ever comes up on sale and you're looking for it and XCOM 2 is just too expensive, I'd buy it. Even without the Long War mod, it's still a great game, but the Long War mod definitely improves it a lot.
Or if you're interested in XCOM 2, buy this, fail once, and then, there's your canon start for XCOM 2.
Yep, there's your canon ending. There you go. Next on my list is Planet Nomads. This was a game I got from Keymailer. And this is, a survival crafting game. Basically, it's Space Engineers if you had to eat and drink and sleep, and also if the controls were worse, and also if the game ran more poorly than Space Engineers did.
That's actually surprising on that last part.
It's a lot earlier in development than Space Engineers is, so I'm hoping that if they have as much time as Space Engineers has had, which is a couple of years, if they have that much time to continue developing the game, it shows promise. It does some things right that I really enjoy, especially compared to Space Engineers. It's a lot more focused. It has some story elements built in, where Space Engineers is just, sort of a Minecraft-esque, like, hey, here's a world, play in it. Although Minecraft has a story now. And I'm not just talking about Minecraft story mode. There are story and lore elements to Minecraft. But Planet Nomads has got some story elements to it, so you always have a focused goal. You very quickly can build your first base and get access to all of, like, the sort of tier 1 technology. It's got a really nice aesthetic that I like. But just about everything else is like, well, other games have done this better. And like I said, I think it just needs some more time in development. Where this game shines the most is definitely its aesthetic. But it runs piss poor. And it's got this weird thing where you can't change any of the options once you start playing.
Ugh.
So it, like, by default, it was like, oh, we default have set your game on the highest setting. And I was like, that's great. And I start playing and it's like 30 FPS at best. I'm like, this is terrible. Let me go change the graphics options. But you can't do that inside. So I had to go back to the main menu and then mess with stuff and then launch the game and check it out and go back.
Looks like they're focusing on single player.
Yeah.
Not sure about that, because it's strange to see a sandbox survival game that's single player only do well.
Yeah, I prefer that. I like that. I never play with other people anyways, but I am worried that it won't get the support and development time that it needs. It's where Space Engineers was probably a year ago. And I can say that because after this, I was like, I really want to go play Space Engineers. So I went and played Space Engineers, but it's about where Space Engineers was a year ago.
Speaking of Space Engineers?
Yeah, speaking of Space Engineers, after I played Planet Nomads for like 2 hours, I was like, I want to go play Space Engineers. So I loaded up Space Engineers and started playing it, and it's a little bit better than it was before in terms of performance. I at least could average 60 FPS with the game on, like, maximum settings.
What about a planet?
It still did okay in planets. It still did okay on the planets. I would get dips, particularly in like areas with like lots of grassland and trees and stuff. I would get dips when I was flying really fast. But once I went and turned the graphic settings down a little bit in certain places, and turned off like all of the like bloom and god rays and all that stuff that I don't really give a shit about anyways, I was hitting a solid 60 FPS everywhere I went, no matter what I did. There would be an occasional hitch, which I think was the game loading in the next, 15 or 20 kilometers of planet around me. But otherwise, it plays fine. They've added a built-in debug menu now where that you can do a lot of, like, stuff you do in debug menu, spawn stuff, despawn stuff. So I was just, like, grabbing stuff and playing with it and just seeing what changes they'd made to the game. Basically, land vehicles still suck because wheels still suck, but otherwise, it's exactly the same with better performance. And I can handle that, because, I mean, I liked Space Engineers the way it was. I have like a few mods that I use to take out the early like game grind that is boring before you start actually being able to do stuff. And then the debug menu makes it go even faster because you can like build yourself a little starter base without having to spend like 6 hours going, where in the hell is the iron deposit? You just build a base, and then you can go find it with your base. You can come back to and get oxygen.
Where's the iron deposit? Open debug menu, spawn iron deposit.
You can do that. You could always like you could go in and edit your save files to do stuff like that before, but now it's just like open the debug menu. You can visually drag it around and put it wherever you want it and drop it. I did crash the game because I was like, I wonder what I can get away with, and I was like spawning asteroids on the planet and then spawning like planets on the planet. I spawned like 2 moons together, and the game just was like, yeah, fuck this, and then it crashed. Now that's when I stopped playing.
I wonder what would happen if you drop an asteroid from orbit onto the planet.
There's been people who have done that in YouTube videos, and it causes a huge fucking crater, but it doesn't have any other effects besides that.
At 1 frame per minute?
It's pretty bad. Yeah.
Yeah, they just show a screenshot, and this is real time.
We'll be here for another 6 hours. But yeah, Space Engineers, it's good. I mean, I always liked Space Engineers, but my biggest complaint was that its performance was so bad that I basically just had to be in the right mindset to play it, or only limit myself to space environments so that I didn't have to deal with all the planet shit, which really bogged the game down. But I don't know what they've done. Real debug work, I guess, but they've got some of that stuff ironed out in it. So maybe if your interest for it ever returns, it might work on your system. Definitely, like on that new computer that you're talking about building, I think it would work just fine.
Yeah, I'm just at a point right now where I'm waiting to see what RAM does, because I have pretty much the money to get what I wanted before. If prices didn't change drastically, because holy shit, RAM more than doubled in price.
Yeah.
And at this point, I may as well just wait for Black Friday. Really?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not too far away. A couple months.
Unless, shit's broken, yo.
Yeah. The last game I played this week was Astrox Hostile Space Excavation, which I did refund this game.
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't see this as you owning this. Where the hell did you get it?
Yeah. It was on sale, and it had been on my wish list for a while. Basically, it looked, and it is, EVE offline, but it's babies first, EVE offline. So a lot of the complexity and in-depth stuff from EVE Online, like some of that you can't have in an offline game because of the multiplayer aspect and the dynamics of the market. And I accept that, and that's fine. But there's a lot of complexity that I've seen in other games.
X series?
Yeah, like the X series that doesn't exist in this game.
Discounting, of course, the latest installment of the X series, Rebirth. Right. Supposedly, the next X series are taking a step back towards the older games and that sort of thing. Hope so.
Yeah, I hope so. Because, I mean, I love Terran Conflict and then Albion Prelude.
Yeah,
those were awesome.
Yeah, I really need to sit down and play those again.
But anyways, a lot of the complex stuff has just gone. So it's basically EVE's ship control system, which was one of the worst parts about that. All of the complexities of like manufacturing and even mining and combat and everything stripped out. But it has a single player story, which is nice. But I mean, I wanted EVE offline. And it just didn't give me exactly. And you didn't
feel like learning the X series all over again.
Yeah,
because that's pretty much where it is for EVE offline, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I recently played the X series when I was on my vacation. I played it for 8 or 10 hours.
Well, I was just asking if there's anything remotely similar to it.
No, not really. What is it? The whatever pirates.
Space pirates and zombies?
No, not that.
Oh.
Look at my games list here. Starpoint Gemini Warlords is the closest I've seen to an EVE offline. Because you've got the whole combination of like 4X type stuff with direct ship control. But even that really is only like halfway there. In terms of like complexity and what you can do, the X series is still closer. Just the way you control your ships really is the biggest difference between the X series and EVE Online. I am hopeful that I mean, it was good. What was there was good, but it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. They just recently announced, though, that they're making a sequel to this game, because this game originally came out in like 2009 or 2010 as like a web-based thing, and then they took that down and retooled it and then put it on Steam a couple of years ago. But the devs announced that they have a sequel to it called Astrox Imperium that adds in a bunch of the stuff that makes it a lot more like EVE Online, or like the X series. Like, they have a dynamic market in as much as you can do with NPC traders. They're going to put a lot more ships in. They're both player-controlled ships and NPC ships. They're talking about adding
spreadsheets.
Yeah, they're talking about adding, a lot more basically to everything. So I'm hopeful that can be my EVE offline. But really, this game, like playing this game, made me just want to either go play EVE Online or play the X series some more. Which I'll probably play the X series. I have to stay away from EVE. I really enjoy it, but it just like sucks up all of my time when I play it. So.
Yeah, and then we have to schedule the intervention, and it's expensive to go down to your house to be able to pull you off the computer. It's like, Jared, we need to record the podcast. We've been out of freaking episodes for 3 months now.
No, I'm mining my asteroids. But I did do that. I did that for nearly the full 2 hours before I could refund it. Was mining asteroids. And I was like, maybe if I refine enough asteroids, I can unlock something. But it's just not there. So I refunded it. If I would say if you want to try EVE Online, but you don't want to completely throw yourself off of the learning cliff, Astrox might be a decent enough training tool. They've really modeled a lot of the first hour or so of the game off of how EVE teaches you how to play. And quite a few of those systems are there, just really basic. So, but then again, I mean, EVE Online is free to play now, so you could go through and do all the training and tutorial stuff in EVE. Free. Very true. Very true. So yeah, that's my list of games for this week. Yay. I need a drink of water. Delicious. Alright, are we ready to move on to another game, which is our Game Club game?
Yeah, I believe so. And since this is a monthly feature, maybe we should say what the Game Club actually is, in case, we may get new listeners every so often.
Sure.
So the Game Club is once a month between the two of us. We used to have a vote until someone decided to stuff the ballot box a little too much. We play a game in common and then talk about it.
Yes, because in general, we have very different taste in video games, so we rarely line up and play the same game. So this lets us play the same game and talk about it from our different perspectives.
Yeah, granted, my list this week was all over the place. Detective-esque point and click, very, very short platformer, annoying strategy survival, and then bland action adventure. Or ARPG, I should say.
Well, everything of mine is strategy or turn-based, or both. So, I guess except for Skidstorm.
Yeah,
that's the one.
And the Game Club is something for us to be able to come together with and also talk in depth with.
Indeed. So, our Game Club for this month was Crossout. Crossout is a free-to-play multiplayer shooter where you build a post-apocalyptic, Mad Max-style vehicle and go kill other Mad Max-style vehicles. And let me just say, it is lovely.
Yeah, this was a hell of a surprise. I was expecting to, maybe enjoy it, not love it as much as I did.
Yeah. I like this type of game. I like, vehicle combat games in general. And again, like you, I was expecting to like it, and then we fell in love with it.
Yeah, I mean, I went stupid with it and spent a lot of time with it. Mostly getting up to, I would say, probably the mid game.
Yeah,
I've gotten mostly blue weapons now.
Yeah, you have played it more than I have. How? Let me pull up cross.
I think I'm in the 80s now on hours, but that's also
shit.
The last couple of weeks have been exploiting the latest update and getting a lot of money out of it.
Yeah, I've played for 20 hours. So you've played for 4 times as longer than me if you've played for 80.
Yeah, I think this is the most I've played a game club game in general.
Yeah, I think it is too. I mean, I really like the game. I just don't, one, I don't have as much time as you to play games. And then 2, I mean, a lot of my free time has been eat up the last couple of weeks with XCOM 2 because that's my new series, and I've had to spend so much time trying to fix it. That game is so hard to record.
Yeah, and also, imagine you're trying to record ahead.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I'm 1 episode ahead right now because of all of my issues. I couldn't record last week. Well, I recorded 1 episode last week. The one night that I got to record, a big fuck-off storm blew through. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to risk it because my power goes out all the time whenever big storms blow through. And it didn't, but I was playing it safe, so I only got 1 episode in.
Maybe I should try to give you some ideas on how I record RimWorld but off the podcast to try to help you with this, because it's about the similar idea. Very modified game, a very long game, with the possibility of things going to shit in a single turn or single episode.
Yep. But yeah, we're talking about Crossout right now. We can maybe talk about that later. So let's talk first about gameplay. This was the first thing that drew me in, how crisp the gameplay is for Crossout.
Yeah, and I'm going to be going back to RoboCraft a lot, comparing the two, because that's probably the best comparison, at least I can think of offhand. I'm sure that there's others, but the 2 major ones right now are really RoboCraft in this for the car combat, build your own vehicle and fight others genre. Whatever you would want to name that too.
Right.
Let's call it a Vroom shooter.
Vroom shooter. Okay, sure. The Vroom shooters on genre.
And I think the main difference between this and what makes this feel a lot better is just, well, for one, this game isn't trying to do everything. RoboCraft tries to do practically every mode of transportation you can think of north of Pogo Stick. Oh, wait, I take that back. There's such a thing as jumping around on a single leg in RoboCraft. Yeah,
RoboCraft tries to do walking vehicles, which, granted, there is like a spider tank in Crossout.
Yeah, but the thing is that the spider tanks in Crossout... Well, Crossout has the spider tanks, they have the hovercrafts now, and they have wheeled vehicles. But spider tanks have a lot of weight to them. They're very slow. Hovercrafts are very fast and very... sitting on the very edge of controllability.
Right.
And wheels are sort of in between. Oh, there are tracked vehicles as well, which are also very slow and have a high amount of traction, so you're able to traverse most terrains very easily. But RoboCraft tries to make it so that they're a lot more equal in their performance, and really makes it so that, why would I want to have wheels whenever I could take a hovercraft and feel pretty much exactly the same?
Right.
This gives enough identity to each of the modes of transportation that if you really sit down and weigh the consequences. Okay, I want something that's very stable for my cannon build, so that kind of takes wheels out maybe, or I put a lot more wheels on, or I could get a tracked vehicle. Granted, it also is based on power score, which is essentially the amount of oomph your vehicle has, and the walker legs and the tracks and the hover jets have a lot more power score. So if you take those into a lower tiered battle, you're usually not having as much stuff on them.
Yeah.
But
That's one thing it does better than Robocraft, because Robocraft also has that whole power score system, but it's really easy to break that system in Robocraft. Whereas Crossout feels like it's a lot more tiered. Like every few hundred power score puts you in a completely different tier.
yeah, there's there's a milestone at the 1,000 marks. So 1,000 to 3,000, there's kind of a hard jump, and then 2,000 to 3,000, 3,000, 4,000, and so on.
Yeah, and that's reflected in
But there are a blurred line. So as you approach it, you see more and more of the next tier.
And that's reflected too in the different modes, because some of them are locked away if you're not using a vehicle with a certain power score. And at the very least, like there's little recommendations I've seen on a couple of them to, have whatever power score.
Mm-hmm.
I think the best way for me to say it is Robocraft is trying to be like, we have everything. We're a jack of all trades. Whereas Crossout is like a lot more focused. There's less variety in what you can do.
Yeah, they're focusing all on ground vehicles, really.
Right. So there's less variety. Like you can't do helicopters, you can't do planes, you can't do.
I have seen people make a cosmetic helicopter with the hover jets. It's not a true helicopter. It's not using the blades to fly.
Right. And then like there have been people that have used like the little boosters to make like airplanes. I'm making air quotes. But I mean they just like fly up and flip around and crash onto the ground. They don't actually fly.
Yeah, they're the Wile E. Coyote airplanes.
Yeah.
Even though I have seen them work a couple times, usually jumping behind the enemy lines and capping the base, which really gets us into combat and how the gameplay handles, because there's a few different modes. There's the kind of just Battle Royale. I can't even say Battle Royale now because that's a different genre. There's Arena Shooter. Can we use Arena Shooter still? Is Arena Shooter all right?
Sure, I don't give a shit what you use. It's our show. We'll use whatever we want.
But it's, what was it, about 10 on 10 combat, red versus blue, but you're always the blue team and you're seeing the other guys as the red team.
Yeah.
And there's a few different styles of maps. There's a neutral King of the Hill style where you cap the center point, you win, or you just you could also kill the other team. But really, if you just go for a team kill, you usually lose because there's usually that one guy on the other team that plays the objective.
Yeah, the one guy who's playing the objective can win the day.
Which I don't have a problem with, really. I like games that reward you playing the damn objective, because I played Team Fortress 2, and there was several maps that turned into essentially just team deathmatch because nobody played the objective, or it was very hard to play the objective because the way the map was designed was kind of poor. But
yeah, and playing the objective, except for the King of the Hill style, instead of it being like all or nothing, you get capture points with the maximum being 3 points. So you can capture 1 point, and then if the other team doesn't capture any points, as long as your team doesn't die, you win.
Yeah, which is a great way to really kind of divide the idea of playing the objective, but still have the idea also of making the other team a team deathmatch situation.
Yeah.
So if your team is down, but you've gotten a point, well, run and hide.
Yeah. And matches are short. They're what, 3? Is it 3 minutes or 5 minutes?
I would say between 3 and 5. Even the PvE stuff is rarely beyond 6 minutes.
Yeah. So if that happens, if you just run and hide, you can just run the timer out, but it's only like a 5-minute timer, so it's not like you're sitting there for 20 minutes.
Yeah, which I think really helps with this game, because that's another thing that really has over Robocraft is. Robocraft games are very, very long compared to this, but they're also almost going into the MOBA genre where you're having to hold different points and build up your abilities or your team and go into the enemy base to destroy the enemy base.
Well, I think the Robocraft, even like the deathmatch in Robocraft, its timer is like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And if you don't hit the required score, like you're going 15 minutes.
Yeah, and it makes it so that even if you get a teammate in this game that is, absolutely useless, which I haven't seen as many completely useless, like in Robocraft where someone goes in without guns. I'm not even sure if you can go in without guns in this game. Now that I think about it, I didn't test that.
You can.
You can? All right.
You can, yeah. I've seen vehicles. No, I didn't test it. I've seen vehicles with no guns. But usually they're like ramming builds. Because you don't have to. In Robocraft, you have to have the specific melee weapon. But in this, like, all ramming does damage. And then you can have weapons that are specifically designed as ramming weapons.
Yeah, there's passive and active ramming weapons where a passive ramming weapon would be like a spike bumper or a train, a cow catcher, or that sort of thing, where you hit it and it does 1 big spike of damage and that's it. But then there's the passive or the active weapons where as long as the weapon's in contact, it's doing a continuous amount of damage, but also drains power from your craft. And the power that your craft has is dependent on both the cabin and any additional stuff that you may have on it. So if I have the higher truck cabin that has, I believe it's 8 power, and then I add a generator to it, well, my truck could support, depending on the generator, up to 10. Because actually, I believe it's up to 11 now because the new generator they put in, but that's beside the point. But the flip side of that is that generators, if they take damage, explode.
Boom.
And if you have your craft built where the generator's explosion will hit your cabin, it could be instant death.
Yep.
But sometimes you have to do that to make a more compact vehicle. So it's a design trade-off. And I really like that.
Yeah, there's no... Robocraft has part regeneration. There's none of that. There's not even a way to repair yourself in the middle of a fight. Like, you can build repair kits, but those basically are just lives.
Yeah, the repair kits are for lives for the raid mode, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they can be used in clan battles, too. But we don't have a clan. Like, I just think I saw that.
Yeah, we didn't get into the clan stuff. But mostly because it's expensive to get into, and we'll get into the pricing model in a little bit. But also, maybe it's whenever we make a clan and all abandon the game, it feels kind of lonesome. Because usually it's me, the last one, and holding it down. That's what happened in Warframe. And it's like, okay, I could leave and join another clan, but then I'm, leaving everything else behind in that sunk cost fallacy.
Yeah.
But it's also expensive to start one.
Yeah, I don't know how much.
I think it was 500 coins.
Okay, I was thinking it was 500 too, which is a lot. Like, the economy in this game, it takes a long time to earn coins.
Well, it really depends on the state of the economy, because the last week or so when the new patch came out and there was a sudden rush on things, it was very easy to get money. The price of scrap, which is your generic resource to craft, shot up by a coin per 100, which doesn't sound like a lot to begin with, but it adds up very quickly. And also, certain items jumped up 20 coins.
Jeez.
Yeah, so
what went up that much?
Well, that's not even counting the stuff from the new faction, which unfortunately I didn't have access to. But you are able to kind of test drive a lot of the stuff to at least get a feel for it. I was making light generators, 4 or 5 of them a day. Popping in, selling them for 60 coins each when they used to go for 40 some. And was spending that to get extra weapons. The profit from it.
Right.
So I'm actually fairly well set now.
Nice. Yeah,
and granted, I did put some money in, but it's more. It's kind of a time skip, but I was beyond where the time skip would take me anyway. So it was more just giving me extra currency and a few extra toys.
Yeah, I don't really feel like this is a game where you need to spend money. Like, certain free-to-play games definitely, like, gate off stuff to you and make it, like, nigh impossible.
Yeah, if I would have paid in earlier, I wouldn't have gotten really all that much outside of what the pack gave me, because a lot of what the cars are made of are gated on their different factions. The engineers, which is your starter faction, you're always an engineer, and as you level that up, you're given structural parts which build out your car. And then once you hit level 10 with the engineers, you're able to join a secondary faction and get parts from both of your starter faction and the secondary faction to, kind of just build out your ride.
Yeah, and
there's no way to skip that.
Yeah, and you can pretty freely change factions. I mean,
once a day.
You can only change once a day, but there's
once
no,
every 24 hours. To be completely transparent on that, it's not once a day; it's once every 24 hours, and that's an important distinction.
But there's no penalties for swapping or anything.
As a matter of fact, you're encouraged to.
Yeah, it's a pretty good idea to pretty rapidly cycle through like the first 2 or 3 levels of each faction to get access to a bunch of the base parts, which 1 lets you design cooler vehicles, and 2 just gives you a lot more stuff to work with.
And your part limit is determined by your engineers faction, and that's the main thing that the buying in would skip, is it bumps that up depending on the pack, because there's buying into just the currency, which doesn't really give you anything. And there's different packs. There's actually 7 of them now, and some of them get expensive. Like $70.
I thought they had one that was $100.
I don't recall if there's one that expensive. I know the newest one was 70, or 70 or 80. Matter of fact, I believe they are on DLC now in the Steam store. The Innovator pack is the newest one, that's 70. I don't recall one being 100, but maybe in a different currency it's 100.
Maybe I just misread it too. Yeah, that's the new hover stuff.
It does give all sorts of toys, which is nice, and that's kind of the thing, is that if you get one of those packs, you could also sell the stuff, and the Innovator pack gives you the hovers, which are very expensive right now, and will still be expensive because it uses the tiered system of, kind of the World of Warcraft style, white, blue, purple, orange, which I realize World of Warcraft is probably not the first one that did that. As a matter of fact, I don't even know what the first game that had that particular color scheme was, but that's just the first place I encountered it.
Right.
And typically your whites are, sub 1 coin, usually, a couple nickels or a dime. And then blues are somewhere in the high 30s, low 40s, depending on, just popularity and, what is used for what. Like, usually generators aren't that expensive, but because the light generator is used in one of the hover jets, that price suddenly jumped up because of supply and demand. Then you start getting more expensive stuff, like the epics, the purples are in the 300 coin range. But if you are sitting down, able to figure out, okay, this purple sells for this much, but requires this much to build, you are able to make money eventually. It's just getting over that hump. And it makes me wonder about the long-term survivability of the economy, because there's not really a way to generate money in the game outside of just selling on the market. And the only way that people are getting money is either through crates, which have a low chance to hit a amount of coins. Didn't you get a hit on coins, or was it somebody else in our group?
No, it was me. I got, I think, 20 coins from one of the crates.
Yeah, which is actually a low possibility. Or just selling stuff on the marketplace. There's no other way to really generate money outside of just buying. I take that back. I take it back. There is the ranked mode, which I didn't actually play into, but the highest 30 some places also get different amounts of coins, and they also have a community record a video, send it in, and that gives some money as well now. So there are some ways, but that's still very limited.
Right. And WoW and most MMOs suffer from this just very slow price creep on everything, which in games that you buy into, that's I think a little bit less of a problem because just of like the investment that players have. And
yeah, and this also has ways to take the money out of the economy as well with the rental of the workbenches, which I'm not terribly happy with, but I understand why it's there.
Yeah, you can use the basic workbench for forever, like the basic engineer bench, but
yeah,
you
but
pretty
honestly,
quickly get past that.
Yeah, and honestly, you don't want to be using that because most of the stuff there, outside of just a couple of the cosmetics that you get for login bonuses, the parts for, are not worth building. They're worth just buying straight off.
Yeah, and a lot of them are given, actually all of them I think are given as rewards for the standard PvP modes. Which I like the way that they're named. It's just like, get the, and then it picks apart. So get the cabin, get the machine gun.
Yeah, which I'm pretty sure that's just differing rewards, and it doesn't change the matchmaking, or at least very much that I could detect what it's actually doing.
Yeah.
Which I don't have a problem with. It's nice to say, okay, I want this particular part for this crafting, and I just don't want to buy it outright. Maybe it's stupid expensive right now. See right now with I believe it's radar dishes or the white item that's really expensive. Just go into the matchmaking with the radar dish and play a few rounds. And rounds are very short.
Yeah. So other things that are pretty important.
Well, we never even talked about PvE yet.
Yeah, well, we haven't talked about that. Yeah. Let's do that before because I was going to shift completely to something else. So this game also has PvE,
which this is sort of mobile-esque energy driven, where you have fuel and it resets at midnight Greenwich Mean Time, Zulu time, which is for us 8:00 in the evening, and you get a certain amount of fuel depending on your engineer level, and you're able to go on these raids with usually 3 to 4 people, depending on just how kind the matchmaking is to you. And do different objectives. They just added a new one, which I haven't been able to play yet. It's essentially a reverse convoy mode, where you're trying to stop a convoy to get to a certain place. Then there's the flip of that, where convoy, where you're trying to escort a NPC vehicle. There's a defensive mode, where you're trying to prevent pump jacks from being destroyed to be able to generate, that are generating fuel, but you don't get the fuel. You're spending fuel to do that. Figure that one out. There's cargo race, which is probably my favorite mode. You're put on one of the PvP maps, and dotted throughout the landscape are different cargo containers, and it sends you, okay, go get this one now. Go get that one now. Go get this one now. And you essentially have to survive and get 10 of the containers with time ticking down. With every time you get a container, it adds, I think, a minute to the time, 45 seconds to a minute, depending on your difficulty. And also, killing enemies also gives you extra time because you're not there by yourself, obviously. Is there any other the game modes I'm missing?
There's one where you have to assault pump jacks.
Oh yeah, the assault mode. I don't play that too much, but it's essentially you're having to kill pump jacks, which are very heavily defended. And then there's the trying to think of what the actual name of it's called, but have to go sneak in, grab the cargo, and then escape.
Yeah, there's like infiltration or something.
Yeah, infiltration. And usually once you pick up the cargo, all hell breaks loose.
Yeah. There's a few different maps for that.
And then there's a Leviathan mode, which I haven't actually played, but whenever you go into it, you're put up against 3 player-made Leviathans. Which, did you get to level 17?
No, I'm not level 17. I think I'm level 14.
Well, once you get level 17, you get the second slot in your garage, which is the Leviathan slot, which has pretty much an unlimited part count. Well, I shouldn't say completely unlimited, but it's a couple hundred.
Right.
And you're able to build a Leviathan with a power rating of, or a total power of 60, which mine is pretty much throw all the guns on it.
Right.
And then if your Leviathan gets picked and you and your team wins, the player Leviathans, you get some copper, which is one of the secondary crafting resources. but I haven't been picked all that often, and you're not controlling it yourself. So it's the AI controlling it, which is, the AI in this game, it's decent enough. It's nowhere near as bad as what Robocraft's was, because I had run into some of the AI in Robocraft, and damn.
But it's still not great.
Yeah, I mean, it's serviceable, but you definitely want to play her.
Yeah. So,
sorry, I wanted to say, you spend fuel to get this, and for me, it's 200. I think starting out, you get 60.
Yeah, you get 60 by default, and I mean, my fuel's 200. Do you get any more than 200?
No, 200 I think is the max. And you're also able to go into the PvP mode, take a fuel barrel, and if you win and survive, and that's the key thing, is you have to survive, you get a resource of fuel that you're able to either sell or use to replenish your fuel and get back into the raid mode, which makes survival a lot more profitable.
Yeah. And I mean, it adds up because matches go so quickly. If you're able to win and survive, the starting fuel barrel is 5. I know you can get one that's 10. Can you get one that's higher than 10?
I don't think there's a higher one, at least as far as I know. But also, the fuel barrels explode.
Yeah.
A lot of things actually explode in this game.
There's a lot of stuff that blows up and can kill you.
And that's glorious.
That's another thing too. Like your fuel tank, the fuel tank has to survive. So, because I've had this happen before, I place my fuel tank in such a way that if it gets blown up, it doesn't kill my cabin. But if the fuel tank gets blown up, you don't get any fuel, even if you do survive and win. So you have to survive, win, and the fuel tank still has to be there.
Which really encourages some interesting designs.
Yeah. And that doesn't stack, so you can't use multiple fuel tanks to get multiple.
Yeah, I wish people would read that.
Yeah. About the only reason to stack multiple fuel tanks is to create some kind of suicide bomber.
No, I'm not going to say it.
Which there are designs that do that, but they're pretty ineffective, because if you shoot the fuel tanks, they are hilarious. If you shoot the fuel tanks, you at worst you neuter it, and at best you just kill it outright. So.
Yeah, but some of the I don't have a suicide bomber, but I do have one that kind of decloaks. I have a cloaking device, which that's something else, is that they have various additional hardware. They have cloaking devices. They have a shield now that a limited time use, but also it's a limited size, so larger crafts aren't completely covered by it.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I actually really like that balance. They have a turret, just a placeable shield that does the same thing. And there's also drones, which are considered weapons now, thankfully, which drive around and shoot. There's a lot of little hardware accessories that you're able to do that really differentiate very similar craft, because especially the lower tiers, a lot of the vehicles start to look not really the same, but variations on the same theme.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say in the 3 to 4K range, you start to see a lot of divergence, though. Yeah, once people are starting to get into the blue cabins. Granted, there's not a lot of cabins right now.
Doesn't each faction have 2 different ones?
Yeah, each faction has 2 different ones, and they just added the 5th faction. And then there's, I want to say, 5 different white ones. There's the starter one, the replacement for the starter one, which is slightly better. There's a van and a truck of some sort, or a big box truck, I should say.
Yeah,
and the cabins are also they're not the end all be all of the role of your craft, but they definitely set a precedent for it, because they set the speed and the overall, or the base power that you get on top of, or with the energy generators that you put in.
Yeah.
So, seeing something with the little dune buggy growl cockpit, it's going to be fast, it's going to be light, it's going to be fragile, but it likely is going to hurt, because usually those are hit and run vehicles.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not a very hit and run type guy. So I tend to go for the bigger, heavier, slower cabins, which by default usually have more power.
And more structure, which
and
is
more
your
structure, but they provide less speed and acceleration.
And also another thing is that having your vehicle hit, they have some sort of armor angling. I'm not 100% certain on that though. But also having your parts hit on your truck deals a certain amount of damage, but having your cabin hit directly deals the full damage. So there's a mixture of trying to armor your cabin but still make your truck lightweight enough to be able to move.
Yeah.
There's a lot of strategy to this game.
There is a lot. There's a lot of design strategy. A lot of.
Yeah, mind if I move to say that we should keep this on the stream night rotation?
No, I think that we should. Yeah, I enjoy playing it. I mean, I don't play as much as you do, but unless someone else has just started playing it a shit ton, I'm the one who plays it the second most. So.
Yeah, I'm likely going to back down quite a bit because most of it was getting into game club stuff, but also wanting to hit the chest or the crates to be able to get some of the starter stuff and that's really where the big investment for me was getting over that hump to have more options.
Right.
Because I built out tires to be able to change a design that wasn't quite working right with the tires I had. So I built bigger tires to be able to have this almost hot rod thing with giant tires in the back and little bitty tires in the front. Because the weight distribution was quite right.
Yeah, it's got a pretty good physics model for things like that. I mean, it's not racing sim levels.
Yeah, I would go arcade sim because it definitely changing your tires definitely helps. There's a lot more there than you would think, especially once you start figuring out your center of gravity and where it is on your vehicle.
Yeah, it's made by Gaijin, the same people who do War Thunder, and it feels somewhat similar to that, especially when you're using the bigger vehicles. I get the sense that they just took a lot of the physics from that game, and I mean, it might even be designed in the same engine. I'm not sure, but it does feel similar, the physics in the game compared to that for tanks and stuff. So
yeah, and you wanted to go somewhere with this.
Yeah, I did. I wanted to talk about some of the other aspects of the game, like the art style and the soundtrack, and the theme. This sort of post-apocalyptic car combat. I mean, it's Mad Max. It's if you were playing.
Yeah, and the reason why they call this Crossout is that essentially the world had a epidemic called the Crossout virus that made everyone insane. Yes, I actually got into I got into the lore of it to figure out what the hell. And it affected people in different ways, and that's why you have the different factions that are vastly different. You have the lunatics that drive their doom buggies and mount explosives to them.
And those are very much your Mad Max villains.
Yeah, but I have to say, it's not completely lunatic-based, but the Hide and Boom, and yes, that is the name of my craft for it, the one with the chameleon, the cloaking device.
Yeah.
It has explosive spears. Well, I'm redesigning it right now, and a rocket or a missile launcher on it. And the idea of it is cloak when out of sight, come around, boom, and then ram someone. And it's tough to play well, but usually I could do some real damage with it, and it's fun.
There you go. But yeah, the aesthetic, the art style is amazing. It's surprised, it looks good. Not just great, it just looks good and believable, and I could see this as being a world,
everything feels like it makes sense.
Yeah, everything feels like it makes sense. Yeah.
Even the hover jets, they look like they were just ripped out of a jet fighter and attached to giant spider legs.
Yeah.
Or some sort of actuation. And outside of ignoring, ideas of, Delta V to be able to cause a several ton craft to hover like that, they make a lot of sense and they look really well done. and they behaved like you would imagine, barely controllable, completely batshit to try to use on any of the more claustrophobic maps, which we probably should talk about map design in general.
Yeah. Okay.
The maps have a very wide assortment of just types. There are ruined city blocks. There's, well, not city blocks, but ruined like townships. And then there's open desert. There's forested areas.
There's like industrial waste area. I mean, there's like a factory that has like a big acid pool or something in the middle that like you feel like a reactor has leaked or something.
Yeah, you go through a old radio observatory.
There's like a burned out train yard. There's a ship boneyard where it looks like a coastline has dried up and left all these ships grounded.
Mm-hmm.
There's the training area, which is interesting
in
and of itself. Like, I wish that was an actual level you could fight on. Got a little bit of everything on it. Because, I mean, it's a proving grounds where you can test your vehicles, but...
Yeah, only thing that they don't really have is loose sand, because the way that the traction model works is that they have a compacted surface, think paved roads. You have off-road, which is, just off-road. And you have loose dirt, which is sand. And they don't have sand on that map. So hitting something like the desert maps with those sand dunes could make it so that a craft is very unpredictable the first time you do that.
Yeah. And I feel like they definitely model the tires differently. Like, there's these tractor tread style tires you can put on trucks and actual tractor tires.
Yeah,
I have one of the factions.
Yeah,
those handle better off-road, but they typically are slower.
Yeah, those are the scavengers, which are essentially paramilitary.
Yeah.
And then the lunatics have like chain tires and studded tires, which, as you may imagine, work better on looser surfaces, which gives it more the arcadey sim feel.
Yeah.
So, because there's a definite plus and minus on running different tires and figure out, okay, this tire offers more structure, or is more durable, but it has this downside and this downside. And I really like that.
Yeah.
There's no clear-cut winner. Well, unless you really get into the hovers, which are still, brand new and they're very expensive.
Yeah.
And I should say also, well, like I said before, very hard to control.
Yeah. I like the soundtrack too. Well, actually, just general audio design. They did a really good job of capturing like different engine sounds and styles and different types of truck sounds.
Yeah, and all the different cabins have a different engine sound.
Yep. The soundtrack, which, I led this off of that, is amazing. It's fairly simple, like rock and country style tunes. But
rockabilly.
I've never heard that before, but yeah, that
You've
makes
never
sense.
heard the term rockabilly?
No, I've never heard that before. Teehee. But the soundtrack is just gorgeous. And it makes me feel like I'm in a post-apocalyptic wasteland.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like music that you would expect, really. Not heavily industrialized, not a lot of high-tempo, edgier seat stuff, but not real laid-back either.
Yeah. Just good, solid sound design. Trying to think, are there any other areas of the game? I mean, we've talked about a lot of stuff. We've actually had a much longer discussion about this game than we thought we would.
Yeah, which is not a bad thing. Not a bad thing at all. I mean, we were kind of stretching on our topic list to begin with, so
yeah,
turns out that was for naught.
Yeah, the only thing I think that we haven't mentioned is the actual like building system for your vehicles.
Yeah, that is a little clunky. It takes some getting used to. There's a frame system where you put down your frames, and that's like you would imagine, the backbone of your vehicle. But there's also this sort of meta going around where people are just spamming frames like crazy because it's also a high structure part and it's resistant to damage.
Yeah.
But you don't see it that often that it's I would call it a problem yet.
Yeah,
it's something that they need to keep an eye on, because there are some builds that I've encountered a couple times that were interesting and possible game breakers if allowed to continue. The frame builds where people are spamming literally every frame part that they have is possibly one of them.
Yeah, using that specifically to like protect their wheels.
Protect their wheels and just add a ton of health to their cabin, because like I talked about, the cabin would still take full damage, but because each frame part adds so much health, because you're not supposed to have that many, it makes it so that you're ending up with a cabin that has a couple thousand health, and there's not a lot of high damage weapons. The biggest damage weapons would be the cannons and the missiles, and both of which, even in the 3 to 4,000 range, are 250 to, I would say, 400 damage for a direct hit.
And on top of that, even if you get a direct hit, they still do splash damage to the nearest connected parts, so you're not getting all of that damage 100% concentrated. So, yeah, usually though, the issue with people who do massive frame builds, at least at the level that I am at, is they still don't have enough vehicle parts to really put anything else together. So if they spend like 15 or 20 parts putting all of their frames together, then they're going to have less weapons or less other parts as a trade-off. And I mean, once you shoot their weapons off, those vehicles are pretty much useless.
Yeah, the main problem I've encountered was the seal clubbing. Have you ever heard that term before? And I'm not talking about taking a seal out to go dancing.
I mean, I've heard of seal clubbing in game terms. Is this the same use, or does it have a specific use?
Yeah, it's the same use where someone with a lot more options comes down to a low rank to be able to just rank up wins. And in this case, it's the people that you saw with the usually the Docker cabin, the truck cab, the white truck cab. Yeah, think free candy.
Yeah, yep.
With that auto targeting turret on top, and then all the frames. I'm sure you've seen that one.
I've seen that one, and the auto turrets had a lot of health.
Yeah, that's the seal clubbers, which the auto turrets also have a lot of power score, which is kind of the counterbalance to it. They did nerf the health. They knocked them down from 400 some to 300 exactly. They knocked I think 125, 130 off of them in the last patch. But also, they made it so that they turn a lot slower.
Yeah, they have a slow traversal rate now. And initially, it was pretty quick.
And there's no direct way to... Well, there's no way to direct them. So, if you're in the middle of a battle, it's going to constantly trying to lock onto the closest target, because that's what it does. It doesn't lock onto one until it's out of range. But it's also a little sad to see someone come in with that and maybe a drone, which is also another auto aiming thing, and literally just sit there.
Yeah. I do like the drones, though.
Yeah, the drones are very deadly, but they also have the downside of, if you kill them, they have a 30-second cooldown to be able to summon another one, and you only have a handful of them. I think 4.
Yeah, I think it's 4. Are the flying drones 4? Because I've only used the... Okay. Then it's 4.
Yeah, I have 2 flying drones, and I have 1 land drone, or 1 wheeled drone, which they've changed the names of them recently. And there's also different types of drones. There's a missile drone that is actually very deadly. As I believe Jim found out.
Yeah.
But once again, they are very fragile. So that's the counterpoint to them, is that you shoot them down before they shoot you. Which I don't really have a problem with, having something that's high damage like that on a long cooldown if it's fragile like that.
Yeah, but even the machine gun drones can be incredibly deadly.
Mm-hmm.
The best way to kill them, I found, though, is just to ram them. They don't have a lot of health.
Yeah, either ram them, or if you have machine guns yourself, just shoot them.
Yeah. But I don't really think I have anything else to say. I mean, it's great. I love the game. We'll keep playing it. It'll wind up on the multiplayer list.
Yeah, I do want to give them props for one thing. is cosmetics. Did you mess with cosmetics at all?
No.
Okay.
Not outside of the flags. Is that what you're talking about, like the ducky and all that stuff, or is there something else?
Well, I was talking like the duckies and that sort of thing that give you a bonus rep to incentivize you to use some of that part count to decorate your rod, but also the paints.
Yeah, I don't really like any of the paints.
No, I gotta give them props for the paints that they're not single use.
Oh.
You get a paint, it's yours. And there's actually a lot of paints out there.
Yeah, I've not seen a ton of them. The blue and the red are probably my two favorites.
Well,
there's a lot of different patterns and stuff as well.
Well, there's a lot of patterns. There was also the red one or the decorated red one that you get for logging in when they hit their milestone on their Russian YouTube channel.
Yeah.
I think you got that, didn't you?
Yeah, I have that one. I've got one of the Australian paint jobs. I don't know if they're different.
But... Yeah, there's two of them. There's an Aboriginal one, and there's one that's Australian with a bunch of, which it looks like the Outback Steakhouse threw up on your car.
If only it was that tasty.
But then there's different patterns, and there's different. There is a digital camo, but honestly, what I do is I have two different browns, and I just paint my car, a couple different browns to try to camouflage it a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, if the enemy has any sort of radar, which there is a built-in radar into your cabin, then there is a giant fuck-off red arrow above your car.
Yeah, that is there.
But, it does, try to break up the outline of your car a little bit. And, once you're in higher power scores, it probably doesn't matter all that much because the car size really starts to inflate. My little truck that I use, which is essentially a heavily modified version of the starter truck. I think there's maybe like one part of the frame that's still original. Because even the frame I've completely rebuilt. Well, outside of maybe the front part. My little modified starter truck is hitting about the place where it's as high power score as I could get it without completely just going nuts and making it larger. So the idea of camouflage isn't going to be as important, I don't think, once you get into like the 4K, 5K range.
Yeah.
Because my murder truck, the one I usually take on raids, is in the 5K range. But that's also mostly due to its armor. It has 3 times the health of my little truck, but essentially the same firepower. I mean, it's not. Yeah. I'm not trying to, make it a bigger or more pack more punch. It's just it has the same guns, except it has a drone.
Yeah,
but very good game.
Very, very good game. Like it a lot. It's a strong contender for best game club game at the end of the year.
Yeah. I'm just heading to the game club list to see if there's anything else. Oh, there's still a couple of strong contenders on there as well for me. I mean, hell, we've had a good year so far.
Yeah, we have.
I mean, we have If My Heart Had Wings on there. We have Life is Strange.
Yeah. It's
Brothers of Tale Two Sons.
Life is Strange was definitely my number one until Crossout. And Crossout is giving it a run for its money. At the end of the year when I sit down and go through the list, I'll
just imagine Max and Chloe in that as they try to survive the hellscape that they created because they just couldn't sacrifice Chloe.
Yep, I just couldn't do it. Chloe, though, fits right in. She fits right in.
I could imagine her in the lunatic faction.
I could. And then Max would be her co-driver because she could just rewind time and keep her from dying.
Yeah, but then Chloe would say, What do you mean turn around? They're right there. Max just rolls her eyes and rewinds for the 50th time. Listen, you idiot. I could rewind time. Boom. Son of a...
Not again.
Maybe that's why I'm not too hip on playing Before the Storm. I didn't care for Chloe before like episode 3 when she started with between her and Max started to really click.
Yeah. I don't know. All right. Well, are we ready to announce our next game club?
Game club games that we played before. Let's talk about the next one.
Yes, the next one is going to be Alan Wake's American Nightmare. So continuing our tradition of doing Alan Wake games in October.
Yeah, well, unless there's going to be a big announcement in the next month, that's going to be coming to an end in 2018.
Yeah,
but we're still going to have to figure out something a little spooky, not too spooky, because we don't need to scare Jared that much.
Yeah, I don't like scary games. If you pick something too scary, I'm not playing it. But yeah, we're going to play Alan Wake's American Nightmare. Now, I have not played this. I had played the original Alan Wake, but you have played this, right?
Yes, I know what to expect from this.
Okay, so, I'm looking forward to it. I've seen some stuff about it, but that was years ago, so I don't really remember much, except just kind of the basic, gist of the story.
Yeah, I think I played this 2 or 3... Actually, I should be able to just look on Steam. Assuming it hasn't been too long ago.
Yeah, but... So
let's see. Alan Wake, American Nightmare. Oh, it's been longer than I thought. It actually shows game purchase, not last played, which gives you an idea of 2013. So probably play it 2013, 2014.
Right. Now, you can still buy American Nightmare. The first Alan Wake, I don't think, is available for purchase on Steam anymore. But American Nightmare, you can purchase. It currently is $10. I would be surprised if it didn't go on sale in October. So you might be able to pick it up for, 50% off. Let's see. It looks like its lowest price has been 95 cents at one point. That was probably when they were about to take Alan Wake 1.
Yeah.
Or Alan Wake off of the storefront, because I know they sold them both really cheaply. But looks like it's been as low as $2.50 before on Steam.
Yeah, I imagine this will go on a deep discount before Game Club. Hint.
Yeah. So looking forward to playing it.
Yeah, it's not that we're bad that there was no community contribution. Just disappointed.
It's fine.
No, it isn't.
We had so much to contribute. It's fine. But yeah, so that'll be the next game club. Alan Wake's American Nightmare. And before we move on to our first topic, I need to take a quick break. So we will be right back
after these messages. I knew where you're going with that.
Yep. And we're back from those messages from our sponsor, and we have took a scalpel to the topics list because our first...
I would say closer to a machete, not quite, but...
We took a hatchet to it. But we kept our sort of our bigger and more important topics, and we are going to start with PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds executive contemplates further action over Fortnite's Battle Royale similarities.
And fuck you.
Excuse me, that was a weird noise that just came out of my body.
And this is different how?
Yeah, fair point. Anyways, what this boils down to, you and I read it in two different ways. You read that as them being incredibly petty and upset over the fact that Epic didn't ask their permission to use or to copy elements from their game.
It's not even using assets or anything. It's literally them making a Battle Royale game mode in Fortnite. And that's it.
Right.
And they took it as an offense because it's not even the developer, it's a executive for Bluehole, which is the company behind PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, because it's not PlayerUnknown, it's it gets so weird whenever you have a person's name as part of a title, doesn't it?
Yes.
But one of the lead execs sees it as a breach of trust for them to use their to put a Battle Royale game out in the same engine that PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds has. Never mind the fact that I think a lot of PlayerUnknown stuff uses the base Unreal engine that, what do you know? It's epic stuff.
Yeah.
How about that, you bunch of conniving assholes?
See, I didn't read it quite like that, although when I went back and thought about it some more, regardless, it still seems pretty, at the very least, dumb, or ignorant, the way that they're going about it, because they're, saying like, oh, we have this relationship with them, and we use their engine, and, it's a breach of trust. But I would imagine, I don't know this to be certain, but I would imagine that in the contract that they signed to use the engine, there's a clause in there somewhere that says, we as the developers of the Unreal Engine reserve the right to use anything that you create in our engine to, improve it or whatever. Like, I feel like it would be stupid of them not to. So.
Well, how about this? How about we just go to the press release?
Okay.
Or the initial press release, because I know that they did some clarifications, but that just makes that's just them digging a hole deeper. See, we've had an ongoing. I'm just skipping some of the initial, lead into this. We've had an ongoing relationship with Epic Games throughout PUBG's development, as they are creators of the Unreal 4 engine, the engine we are licensed for the game. After licensing it to the growing feedback from our community and reviewing the gameplay for ourselves, we're concerned that Fortnite may be replicating the experience for which PUBG is known. Right. I'm going to be perfectly honest. I haven't played PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. I don't think you have either.
No.
But it seems like a pretty vanilla Battle Royale shooter. It doesn't seem like they really add a lot to the elements of it.
Yeah, about the only thing that I can think of that separates PUBG from previous or other games in this genre is the fact that the field of play shrinks as you go on.
That's not new.
Oh, okay. So then what game has used that before?
Well, I know that the mod that they did for that PlayerUnknown did for Arma 3 did that, which I know is still the same thing. But I believe H1Z1's King of the Kill also has a gas field that closes in.
Okay. So even that's not 100% new. So yeah, I mean, basically, PUBG was right place, right time.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, it has the name recognition. That's the thing. PlayerUnknown. Which, if you're in that circle, is a big name. For us, unknown.
Our unknown is a spaceman. Not a player.
Well, he is a player. He's a player.
Player.
Trying to remember if he's dead in RimWorld. It doesn't matter. Let's see. Well, we have also noticed that Epic Games references PUBG in the promotion of Fortnite to their community and in communications with the press. This was never disclosed with us, and we don't feel that it's right. Now, what they've said is that we're fans of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. So they're saying that they're fans and wanted to create a similar experience. If this is legal, is actionable wording, can you imagine the 90s console wars? Sega does what Nintendo don't?
Yeah.
Or just the bickering back and forth between different big shooters?
I mean, even in the modern era, though, there's so many games that are designed like, hey, we're fans of this. We were inspired by that.
Or how about, we're the Dark Souls of first-person shooters?
Yeah.
I mean, I realize that's a ridiculous assessment, but it's the same general idea of using one game to kind of give an idea of the experience expected, even though, in terms it doesn't really make sense. But still, let's see, where was I? I'm kind of skipping around on this because it's kind of just an interview and giving some. This is a paste bin that Total Biscuit did, and he has some notes. But I'm skipping those. Other companies will, of course, enter the marketplace, but I will just hope that they put their own spin on the game mode and not just make a carbon copy. Well, about that. Fortnite has building aspects in their game mode. Yours does not. So fuck you. That's my editorial comment, by the way.
You don't say.
Let's see. The PUBG community has and continues to provide evidence of the many similarities that we will contemplate further action, and that's the end of this. Yeah, it turns out it also has guns that come out of that has bullets that come out of barrels. I mean, it's a genre. And beyond that, you can't copyright a gameplay element or a genre. You can't not trademark it. Otherwise, we wouldn't see any platformers that aren't branded Nintendo. I realize Nintendo didn't create the platformer, but they were one of the first major ones that had a big platformer out.
Yeah.
It is ludicrous to think this way. I'm just dumbfounded by the sheer arrogance of this guy.
Yeah, I'd say at best it's ignorant, and then at
I'm just
at
going
best
arrogance.
ignorant, and worst arrogant and petty.
I mean, am I the only one that's reading this? Is they're pissed because they didn't get permission?
I mean, I'm not, going, like I said, I'm not reading it that way. I'm reading it as in they're ignorant of their own, like, contract and things like that. Like, they didn't read the fine print. But, I mean, what you're saying is absolutely one way to interpret it. And it's just, I don't know, our different personalities, maybe that's why we've interpreted it the way that we have. But both of them are bad. So.
Yeah, I'm looking for the quote and the clarification, because they were upset that they didn't talk. Let's see. Well, we would have subsequently talk about details with Epic Games, but we haven't been connected to their headquarters yet. So what I want to explain here is that PUBG might have really simple battle royale rules and systems, but we've seen that Brendan's own idea, PlayerUnknown, and that game mode in PUBG belongs to Brendan. So, yeah, right there. You know that Daybreak Games actually licensed this idea and worked with him to develop the game mode. Okay, well, what about the calling? That's another battle royale mode that did pretty much the same thing. Did they license it from him as well? I mean, there's a difference between having someone as a consultant and claiming that someone owns the idea completely. Oh, this just angers me, as you may be able to tell.
I noticed.
Oh, good. I was wanting to make sure that came through.
Definitely did. Promise. Okay.
Let's
well,
see. Here. Okay, here it is. So, this is from PC Gamer. So, nice softball questions from them. So what I think I'm hearing is that you would like Epic to license their battle royale from you. Is that what I'm hearing? The exact. What I think is that they should have come to us before making it and had a discussion with us. So tell me how that is not being petty about, we didn't hear from you before you announced this.
Well, I mean, like I said, they might just be thinking, like, they didn't read their contract properly. They didn't know that they could take those things and use them. Like, maybe they thought that because they were contracting the engine that they weren't going to make a game about it. I mean, like I said, I'm not saying that you're wrong. I just am approaching it more from the ignorance angle. Like, they just didn't understand. And so they spoke stupidly from a position of ignorance, which does not excuse the behavior.
Yeah, but they've continued to speak from a position of just stupidity. So,
well, now they're going from we can't admit that we were wrong. That so many companies, people,
yeah, now they're continuing to dig.
Yeah, they start digging, so they're just gonna keep going.
And here's the funny thing. Here's the funny thing is that I don't think anyone really paid attention to Fortnite's game mode until they made a huge fuss about it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are just ignoring Fortnite. Fortnite has a lot of design. I wouldn't say problems, but a lot of bloat in their design from everything that I've read. And a lot of people were just writing off Fortnite, but now, oh boy, does it get a lot of press. Actually, I'm going to check what Fortnite's player numbers are before we head out, because it would be interesting to see if they got a huge jump. Let's see, Steam charts. And I'm not getting Fortnite. How's that spelled exactly?
Topics list. Fortnite. Fortnite. No spaces.
It's one of those. Actually, I'm not seeing it on the Steam charts. It's weird.
That is because it's not on Steam.
Oh. For some reason, I was thinking it was on Steam. I don't know why I was thinking it was on Steam. I know I saw it on Keymailer, so that's usually Steam stuff. Occasionally, non-Steam stuff pops up on there. It kind of screws with me.
Yeah, you have to get it from their website. I also think it's for consoles.
Yeah, I know that they had a thing recently where they accidentally had a cross-play between the different consoles for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I saw it on Keymailer and just assumed that was on Steam for some reason. Because I know it was on there at some point.
You might be able to get it from the Windows Store. That might explain. Well, also, but it would be console, because you can get Xbox and PlayStation games from Keymailer. I saw my first Nintendo Switch game on there today when I was browsing through.
Yeah, you can see why I was a little screwed up with that then, huh?
Yeah.
Because I know I saw it on there at some point. But I'm not seeing anything about player numbers, which I would love to know, if they saw a huge boost. It does say that they saw a 500,000 copies sold in their first day of early access, but who knows what that means? If it's just on one particular console or another, and what their player numbers are like on PC.
Yeah.
So, Bluehole, fuck you. I think we're done there.
Fair enough. All right, on to our next news topic. Fake games removed from Steam as Valve fights back.
Yeah, oh boy, has Steam Direct been a mistake for Valve, huh?
Yeah, they took somewhere between 150 and 200 games off of Steam. What was it? Was it Kotaku? Or?
Polygon actually
Polygon.
broke this.
The Polygon article says 200. The Tech Raptor says more than 150.
Well, the thing is that this company that is behind all of it, they use a lot of different accounts to kind of break up their empire. And there's some interesting stuff here. Sid Alpha actually has a video on it, which I'll have to dig up for the show notes. He goes pretty in-depth on finding these different companies and showing the stellar work that they do. They're all pretty much just asset flips. I mean, there's nothing of value really lost here, unless you're wanting a bunch of trading cards, of course, because that's really where they're going with this. And there was a story a couple of weeks ago where Valve was limiting the amount of keys that certain developers were able to claim for, off Steam purchases, because those packs that you get 100 games for $1. That's what a lot of this was fueling.
Yep, I've bought a couple of those packs myself.
You naughty boy.
Yeah, I am.
I'm not falling for spanking you, though. I don't care how naughty you are.
Oh, man.
I mean, there's not a terrible amount to talk about here. It's more just, really, Steam Direct has opened up a can of worms that I don't think Valve really imagined was going to happen.
Yeah.
Just the sheer number of asset flips out there. I've seen a handful of sprites, I would say a half a dozen times on a single page of the Steam store.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, it is nice, though, to see Valve actually doing something. They need to do a lot more. And hopefully this is more than just, all right, we'll do something so that people won't bitch at us. But,
well, I wonder if a lot of this isn't because they're asset flips or they're fake games, which I don't really like the term fake games, mostly because it's too close to fake news, and that just drives me absolutely batshit insane. I'm okay. But the idea that this company was breaking up their empire on various sock puppet accounts and making it look like, okay, this developer is making 24 of the same puzzle game over and over again, only reworking the puzzles. So the Sudoku games are slightly different. And this one is all the peg puzzle games. And yes, I have seen the little like Cracker Barrel triangle things that you have all the golf tees in. I've seen several of those popping up now.
Yeah.
Compelling video gaming. Compelling.
Incredibly compelling.
I wonder if they're going to start going after some of these like achievement farmers. I'm not sure if that's caught in this list or not. But
I don't know. Is there a full list up somewhere?
I haven't seen a full list. But, if we just search Achievement Hunter, I'm sure we could find out if it's still on the store page.
Can do.
They're still there.
Okay.
Shit. I mean, I'm just shocked that this hasn't been hit yet. There's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's 13 of them already released. And each one of them are just spams achievements.
I gotta think that if Valve would actually employ a lot more curation, like real people, this would be less of a problem, but they refuse to do it, so we're just gonna have to keep dealing with the flood, the cavalcade of shit.
I mean, hell, just have an intern that looks at things as they come out. It's like, that looks like the same assets I've seen 20 times today.
Yeah.
And also, I was talking about it on Twitter, that there should be some sort of rule that certain colors shouldn't be used as backgrounds, particularly anything in the neon area of the color wheel.
Oh, but those are where all the best colors are.
Yeah, they're the last ones you ever see.
Fair enough.
I've seen some of these asset flips just have neon pink with a neon green foreground. I think they're trying to hide the fact that they're all asset flips by you can't see if they're an asset flip if you can't see, right?
Yeah. That might be a thing.
But yeah, this is going to be an ongoing thing for Valve as they try to figure out what they just released. Oh, Valve, what are you doing outside of not developing games anymore?
You're drunk, Valve. Go home.
Oh, so shall we get to our last little mini news topic?
Indeed. Warner Brothers backpedals from its Charity Kerfuffle.
I still like Clusterfuck better.
Yeah, but I don't want to put Clusterfuck in the topic list. Like, the word.
Oh.
We'll put the swearing, or we'll leave the swearing in the show.
Yeah, because you're way too lazy to try to censor me.
Yeah. Free speech, man. Free speech.
Woo, America!
So basically, this is just an announcement that Warner Brothers made that they're walking back all of the previous everything that has to do with this Warthog, Orc Slayer, or whatever his character name is, deal.
Yeah, they're making a free DLC. They're giving a chunk of money to the family. And really, this should have been how it was before.
I agree.
And they were quickly trying to throw one of their employees under the bus, saying, well, he misspoke, and he didn't want to say it this way because it would have problems with marketing in the over 200 territories, and they gave the specific number. And you can't advertise charity. Just shut up. Really?
It's just a lot of bullshit to keep them from saying, you know what, we tried to profit off of this man's death, and everyone called us out on it, so we're just not going to do that. I mean, that's all that this is.
I mean, even if there was a miscommunication and they were not wanting to advertise the fact that it was a charity DLC, which, yeah, there should be a way to do that pretty blanketly. I don't think that it's going to be that big an issue. But then again, I'm not a lawyer and I don't play one on TV. Then have some sort of general press release and just leave it on the Steam and have the Steam stores reflect what it should be in those different territories. Yeah, but leaving it for about a month is just stupid.
Oh, and also they said they would refund everyone's money that already pre-ordered it.
Yeah, of course.
So, yeah, I mean that's what this
Warner Brothers
should have been from the beginning.
Yeah, and Warner Brothers has been backpedaling and trying to do damage control like crazy lately. They also had an interview about the loot crates, but didn't put it on the topic list, mostly because it's just PR spin trying to sidestep all the actual questions and say, well, you don't have to buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the same thing applies to their game in general. And guess what?
Oh, we're not buying it.
Oh,
at least not until it goes deeply discounted. Maybe.
Well, I'm going to say until it ends up in a bundle when they're advertising their next game. Because that's usually how these things go with Warner Brothers.
Yeah. They also put a link to You Caring.
Yeah.
Which is like a...
Yeah, that's the family's essentially Patreon.
Yeah. So far, they've received $133,687.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people were giving money to the family directly instead of buying the DLC, which is perfectly fine by me.
Yeah. So, yeah. I have no idea how much money Warner Brothers is actually going to give the family.
Yeah, they're being very tight-lipped about that, and probably for the best because, yeah, and there's a lot of people that are on both sides of the debate here saying that it was a lot of brouhaha for nothing, and I really disagree with that. They could have come out and said it and cleared up a lot of issues, but they left it to fester.
Yep, they left it.
That's where the real problem is.
And they danced around it, and all this other stuff, and it's like, just be upfront and honest about things, or just do shit properly at the start.
There was a headline on Polygon that I saw on r/gaming. I didn't put it on the topic list, but it could be an interesting discussion at some point. Is that they were talking about developers don't want to be transparent with gamers because of the toxicity of gamers. And, I have so many problems with that. Particularly with how the game's media plays up a lot of things to begin with. Granted, we may be part of the problem on that one, but still. The fact that, all the toxicity and all the outrage doesn't exist by itself. There's something stirring it. And guess where the problem tends to lie? All the hype, all the pushing for pre-orders, all the pushing for DLC, all the pushing for loot boxes now.
Yeah.
And I think it's coming to a head. And Jared, calm down. I don't mean like that.
Oh, man. But no, I know what you mean.
Oh. So, are we done with topics?
I think so, which means that it's time to move on to our community corner, which we only have some responses to the question of the week, right?
Yeah, because we're being disappointed this week. I was so sure we were going to get emails. We are completely sure that the email address is working, right?
I think so. Well,
yeah, vglpodcast@gmail.com.
Yep, we receive emails from other stuff.
Yeah. Kind of strange. Hello, is anyone out there? Marco.
Polo.
Anyway, question of the week. And I didn't update my question of the week, which is irritating. So I'm going to have to go grab that from Twitter. I think I saved over my file accidentally. But good thing I could just go grab it directly off TweetDeck. So, question of the week is, what level of competence do you expect from a game journalist reviewing a game? And Jim chimed in. because he's not going to be tough on this at all. They need the average level of confidence and should know the genre. That's the value add that journalists are providing. Any idiot could do a Let's Play. Hey, wait a minute. Otherwise, it's like reviewing a car if you just got a driver's license, or reviewing a 4x4 if you've never driven off-road. And we actually had someone else chime in. Understands Law chimed in and said, only a driver needs a driver's license.
I wonder if that's a bot.
I'm not sure. I mean, I looked at his account, and I can't. It's one of those things I can't tell. There's a lot of retweets. But there's also a lot of sarcastic quotes, and of course, a lot of Trump support. So, but it's one of those things that you're technically correct, but understands Law doesn't understand question of the week.
Well, I mean, he's not called Understands Question of the Week. He's called Understands Law, so. Yeah, he's got you on that one. Yeah,
well, understand law. Golf driver. Do you need a license for that? No, I think not. Checkmate.
Checkmate, atheists.
Now go eat your babies in your caves. Yeah, but assuming that the email works, you can email us bglpodcast@gmail.com with your, hopefully, polos. Or, anything else that you wish us to read out. Or you can just tweet us, BGL Podcast at Twitter, with the question of the week also appears sometimes on Friday.
Awesome. Well, then let's move on to our Steam Discovery Queue.
Oh, we still have time for it.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and do it.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a VGL podcast without music.
Nope. And also, I mean, we'll get through this. I'll still probably make it in bed by 1:30, 1:45. I'll live. I'll just drink extra coffee tomorrow. All right. Right off the bat, I have a good one. Eliza seduced the innkeeper.
I signed up for a review copy of that. I haven't gotten it, but it looks terrible.
It looks terrible, but in the kind of terrible way that I love when I want to play something schlocky. So, yeah. The player doesn't impersonate a simple man, but a powerful, rich, and famous nobleman who seems to be able to obtain whatever he wishes for. But will it be enough this time? And there's definitely a focus on the anime boobies.
And I see why you're in for it. Well, I got a third-person stealth shooter called Echo. It looks very, very interesting. It's at the sort of the AA range, price range. I have no idea about this game in general, though, but it looks interesting. It looks like it's highly rated, and no anime boobies. So, there goes Jared's attention span.
Yeah,
looks like it just came out as well. So,
ooh, Valnir Rock. Valnir Rock is a multiplayer survival role-playing game, in a Viking setting. Yes, Vikings. I love Vikings. I'm in. This is early access, of course. It is. Let me drop the link.
I'm passing up on some small shooters because, yeah. All right, here we go. This one has my name all over it, or at least half of it.
Is it the caffeine part or the rage part?
Fight and rage.
Nice. I got super fancy pants. I'm just gonna skip past that.
A retro 90s style beat 'em up. It actually looks very good. I'm gonna add that to my wish list. I'm not a huge beat 'em up fan, but sometimes I'm in the mood for it. It has a CRT simulation style, right down to the scan lines, which isn't that hard to do, but it's a nice touch. Yeah, definitely worth checking out if you're a fan of beat 'em ups.
So I got another. I think this is shaping up to be a good week for me so far on the Discovery Queue front. Mutant Football League. This looks like what's the fantasy turn-based football?
Blood Bowl.
Yeah, this looks kind of like Blood Bowl, only real time.
I'm pretty sure that I'm pretty sure there was a Mutant Football League back in the day.
All right, so this may be a remake. Yeah, this is real time. Yeah, the first review says that it's a remake. Still, it looks really, really good. Like, this is the kind of sports that I would be into. I'll put that on my wish list.
I'm not getting a lot of good stuff. I'm getting some decent enough stuff, but it's not something I want to put on.
Right. It doesn't look good, whatever it is.
Oh, I've heard some stuff about this one. The First Tree. Here, I'll drop a link for you. A very artistically impressive game. It's very cel-shaded, I guess it would be the proper term for it. Cel-shaded / low polygonal. A third-person exploration game centered around two parallel stories. A fox trying to find her missing family, and a son reconnecting with his estranged father in Alaska. Not Australia, Alaska. Two completely different places. So, sort of an open-world story game. Interesting. I would imagine, well, not quite walking sim, because there are gameplay elements. I'm impressed by the visuals, at least.
I have heard that this is terrible. I think it was on the Co-optional podcast where they talked about it, but basically it's pretty but boring.
I probably haven't heard that episode of the Co-optional. It's rated very highly, so maybe it's one of those certain things that will click with people.
Yeah. So I got another one. Industries of Titan. Create a sprawling industrial city compete with the other great houses of Titan for resources, territory, and power. And it looks like some sort of like grand strategy game mixed with like a tycoon style game. Kind of like, what's the, like Mars, whatever, where you're like a businessman and you don't like directly attack other people, but you can like hire pirates or whatever to come and disrupt the other people's businesses. It looks neat, right up my alley. It's a good week for me.
Yeah,
I've got 4 games on already?
Yeah, my week wasn't that great. I'm already done.
Okay, I've got...
Well, I was kind of stretching with the First Tree because I don't really know about it. I've heard things about it. I've heard people praising it. I've heard people, obviously dissing it now. So it's really... I guess it's a niche game, which isn't such a bad thing. That is the plus side of Steam Direct, is that it does allow more niche games, but the problem is finding them in all the shit.
So here's another anime movies game. Tricolor Love Story.
Oh, God.
I'm getting a link for you. Like, the trailer for it focuses absolutely on the anime boobies. And it's super cheap, too.
Just like you like them.
It's like... I went away from the page. What is it? $1.19. I'm absolutely buying that right now.
I mean, hell, it's $2 normally.
Add to cart. I would buy that. Oh, I might buy Eliza Seduce the Innkeeper too, because that's only $6. I mean, that's slightly out of my impulse buy range, but for a schlocky visual novel game that's got anime boobies in it, that's pretty good. That's what I paid for like the Sakura games.
Well, according to this has one hell of a script to it. A billion-word script. Granted, a lot of the screenshots are in, I'm assuming that's Japanese. Yeah.
I'm buying both of these games. I went back and opened up Eliza Seduce the Innkeeper. I have one game left on my discovery queue.
Jared, I'm expecting a full review.
That's a lot of visual novel to play through, but I will do my best, sir.
Well, I'm talking about Seduce the Innkeeper. It can't be that long. I mean, how long can you last?
A while, my friend. A while.
Okay, it looks like it's Chinese, not Japanese. There's only a handful of reviews for this. I'm on the visual novel database for this.
Well, while you look for that, I've got my last game pulled up here, and it also looks like a good one. Ancient Frontier. It's a sci-fi turn-based strategy ship combat game with, looks like some light strategy, like, management type stuff to it. I'm all about that sort of thing.
This actually doesn't look all that terrible. Tricolor Love Story. Granted, so damn. Did you go to the forums?
Yeah, no. What are the Steam forums for
Yeah.
Tricolor Love Story?
Yeah, it's pretty much all Chinese.
Let's see here.
Looks like there's some translation issues, but it doesn't actually sound all that bad.
Oh, geez, this whole thing is Chinese. Well, not the whole thing, but almost
Yeah.
all of it.
Two threads on the front page is Chinese.
I'm definitely buying these two games. Tricolor Love Story.
I may pick up Tricolor Love Story to try out.
Do you want to play it, Rage? It's $1.19. I'll buy that for you. Or $1, whatever. I gotta sign into Steam because I'm on the web browser.
If you're going to save me the $1.19, sure.
I'll buy it for you.
Oh.
Where's my Steam thing? I need to sign in, dang it.
I mean, like I said, it doesn't actually look that bad. It doesn't look like what you would expect it to be, just at the price point, which is shocking.
We're changing the game club for October. we're not doing that. I'm joking, but
no, this is November. Actually, we do need to start discussing November anyway, and I am joking about that.
All right, so I bought those for myself. Now let me go back over here.
I'm scared of what you're going to say in this, though.
Add to cart.
Oh, boy.
Purchase as gift. Caffeine Rage. Continue. Recipient's first name. Of course. Actually, I know your real first name. Gift message. Ta-da.
Oh,
Best wishes. My signature. Can you guess what my signature is going to be?
Let's see. X's and O's.
That's what it usually is. But you get a rocket ship.
Oh.
There you go.
Well, Discovery Queues worked for once.
I just spent $10. Me that copy, you one, and then I also bought Eliza, Seduce the Innkeeper. I'll report back on these games.
See, I don't want to play it now, but we'll download it.
This was a good discovery queue. I approve. I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I had 6 games. I had a 50% success rate on my discovery queue.
Yeah, usually it's me that's a cheap slut on these.
Well, in general, I've done so many. Maybe it's finally I've kind of gotten back into a good rhythm with discovery queues, because I've said this before. I used to just do discovery queues constantly, so that I had done every single thing that was on Steam. But now that we only do it once a week,
and also releases are catching up with us, because this released or Tricolor Love Story released only 7 days ago, a week ago. This is a Secure game though, so. But it does look like it's probably the better one story-wise. But I just went to install it. It's a 3 gig visual novel.
Holy shit. That is massive.
Yeah, I was expecting, start it up and, be done in a minute or two. Well, granted, it's still not going to be that long, but disk space required. 3,045 megabytes. Right at 3 gigs.
I'm gonna.
That's fucking massive for a visual novel. And unless all the music is in WAV format.
I'm gonna be spending a lot of time sitting in the recliner over the next week streaming these from my main machine, because I was actually
planning on streaming if my heart had wings and start going through another story.
Yeah. I was gonna just install these on my laptop, but Tricolor Love Story being 3 gigs, I have just a teeny tiny SSD in my laptop. Eliza Seduce the Innkeeper is more what I was expecting. It's 600 megabytes.
Wow, it's a surprising episode this week.
Indeed,
we had a surprise with Crossout. Actually, 2 surprises. One, we liked it a hell of a lot more than we were expecting, and we were expecting to like it, and we ended up talking about twice as long. 3 times as long?
Yeah.
And then we had this. And thank you for the gift.
You're welcome. It's been a good recording. But
and it is time to start to end it. So, what's going on with you?
Indeed. So the part of the podcast where I go first. If you want to find my stuff on YouTube, you can do so by searching for Gaming Psychologist. And the stuff that you're going to find this week is a new episode. Actually, 2 new episodes. I went ahead and already had them scheduled, so I just left them. But until I can get ahead, I'm only going to do from now on 1 episode a week of VGL.com. But by the time this goes live, episodes 3 and 4 will have released. 3 is already out as we record this, and 4 releases on Thursday. So if you want to come watch the wacky adventures of your commander and your friends, then that's the place to do it. There has been another death from my created characters, but it's no one that listens to the podcast. It's just one of the ones that I created from people that I know in my life. So if you follow me on Twitter, you saw I posted the screenshot of his postmortem. It was very sad. He did so good that mission too. His name is Anders, and Anders got like 5 melee kills that mission as one of the melee characters, but he just couldn't make it. He even got out of a couple of sticky situations that I thought that he was going to be okay, but nope, in the end he didn't make it. I carried his body out though. No bodies left behind. At least no more bodies. I think it was episode 3 where I left a body behind.
Whoops.
Yep. It's a sad day. But you're still alive in that game. The only VGL person that has died has been Cube, which is unfortunate because I really wanted him to be my first sniper, but alas, didn't make it.
Well, simple. You just give it to your uncle because sniping is a good job. Right?
Hi-oh. Yeah.
Wait. We don't give it to your uncle. We give it to Hidden Relic.
That would be one for Relic. I never assigned him a class.
Well, so... no. The sniper is actually a New Zealander. He's a Kiwi.
Oh, good point. I could do that.
Yeah, we're getting deep into TF2 lore. In the world of TF2, as crazy as it is, New Zealand is a bunch of super geniuses who sunk their island down into the Pacific to escape the crazy Australianers. And then one guy decided that the world was ending and launched a rocket. But he failed to account for the whole bubble above the city.
Smooth. I love how that this is me talking about my stuff and we're not talking about TF2 lore. It's fine. It's fine.
I was giving you ideas for Hidden Relic.
Yeah, well, Relic is not in my current game. Like, he just hasn't been spawned in. I can't remember if I've got your uncle or not, but he's designated as an assault class. So he's like, being an Aussie, I dressed him up like a Mad Max style character with like a crazy like face mask and stuff, and like weird spiky pauldrons. So he's an assault class.
Well, to be fair, Australian American culture is either Mad Max or Paul Hogan.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the main thing that's on my channel.
Now.
There's also Divinity Original Sin. I need to render out the rest of the episodes and get them posted. Because, I mean, as I tend to do, I fall behind, and then we'll do a dump and then fall behind. I think the last episode that I have posted is 54? Maybe 53. But I'll put some more of those up. It's about time that I do another big render day. I intended to do that this weekend, actually, but craziness happened, so I didn't get it done.
Our next episode would be episode 60.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit behind. But that's it for coming up on my YouTube channel for now. If you want to follow me on Twitter, where you can see all of the things that I tweet about all of the various things, you can do so by following me at JMA4707. I've actually been a little bit less political than usual the last few days, although the last few days I haven't really posted very many tweets, so it's kind of hard to be political if you don't post tweets, but they will be there. It will be there. If you want to watch me stream games on Twitch, you can do so over at twitch.tv/jarthur4707. And if you want to be friends with me on Steam, you can send a friend request to jarthur4707. I accept all friend requests from the lovely people that listen to the show. I made a new friend this past week, and we had a discussion about what did we talk about? We talked about a lot of things. We talked about some psychology stuff. We talked about some politics stuff. We talked about movies. So I am
figure out what the fuck is wrong with me.
I am up for whatever you guys are up.
Oh my. Well, if you wish to add them on Steam and want to let them know exactly what episode of the podcast you're coming from, the password for this week is squeegee.
Squeegee. Ah, that's good. It's a good one.
Yes, squeegee.
Squeegee.
Just something about the word, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's good. It's comedic. I'm down.
You accept this.
Indeed.
Well, you don't exactly have a choice in this matter, but still. Well, I guess you could edit it out, but that would be a dick move.
It would be.
And you're not Bluehole.
What about you? What's coming up on your channel, and where can they find your stuff?
Well, my channel is in a complete state of disarray. Wasn't able to record Divinity, so that's off the table for now because we weren't ahead of, and we weren't planning on getting ahead this last weekend. That's the funny and the sad part of it. And as I said before, Van Helsing broke completely. So that is off the table because I was only an episode ahead on that when I went to record. And yeah, I pretty much posted that, went to record, or I scheduled my last episode of Van Helsing, went to record more. Oh, the game's broken. Well, that's going to throw a wrench into things. So I'm in experimental mode, and I pretty much have the choosing done already. It's very, very, very different from what I've done before. And I would be shocked if you're able to figure it out.
I mean, I usually can never figure it out anyway, so...
Okay, well, here, I'll narrow it down. It is a game that is not in my Steam library.
That really doesn't help me all that much, because... I mean, we joke about you having a big fucking Steam library, which you do, but there's still several thousand games which are not in your Steam library. Can I have, like, a genre hint or something?
Alright, genre hint. If this game were to be released today, it would be called a roguelike. Or roguelite, I should say. So that tells you both the genre and it's an older game.
Yes.
Or, okay, I'll help you out even more. A roguelite city builder.
Okay.
And I could just hear the, huh?
Yeah.
That's if it was released today. I'd be surprised if anybody knows this before I release the first episode. I'm planning on next week. Maybe later in the week just to fuck with Jared some more.
That's fine.
Because I know you like it when I fuck with you.
Yeah, I do.
So that leaves really just RimWorld, which I need to go record more of. I'm actually out of those episodes as well because I was scrambling trying to do final testing on my new project. And also, after having, you not be able to record and just Van Helsing falling apart, I just didn't want to test my luck. I know that sounds like me throwing you under the bus, but I was, and I'm definitely not, because I was the one actually pushing for you not to record when you weren't feeling all that well. Because I care about you. And I'll still pick on you, but that's beside the point. That's just who I am.
Thanks.
But besides RimWorld, I am still planning on having the Sunday Sampler. Hopefully we'll get the streak back of me giving those blue thumbs up, because I do liking games. It's just, I'm a very negative critic, and it's a lot easier to say, well, this sucks, this sucks, this sucks, and this sucks, and everything else is alright, instead of saying, well, this is peachy keen, this is awesome, this is amazing. Because honestly, hearing praise over and over and over again, it gets boring. And I could be mean in creative ways.
Yep, fair enough.
And I'm not sure if I want you to dispute that or not. And you can find that over at Gaming with Caffeine Rage. on YouTube, which also hosts this podcast on Fridays at noon. Or if you wish to see me tweet about remembering when cheat codes were not just the pin on your credit card, you find me over at Gaming of CR on Twitter. And once again, our email address, if you wish to email us and let us know you're still out there. Hello, McFly. You find us at VGPodcast at gmail.com on Gmail, or you can just tweet us VGL Podcast on Twitter. If you're still alive and wish to help us pay for this, you find our Patreon campaign, patreon.com/VGL Podcast, that helps support the podcast and all our expenses, and maybe the creation of the Gilded Bird trophy to send to dickish developers. I'm kind of tempted to do that now, you know? I wonder how much it is to get a brass just middle finger. Our website, where you can find the show notes and the RSS feed for this absolute madness, if you're not listening to us through that already, is vglpodcast.podbean.com. Or you just find us on Google Play, iTunes, or who knows where else. Our intro and outro music is On the Ground by Kevin McLeod, and our Discovery Cube music is Doobly Doo by the same artist. You can find his work at Computech.com. And
as always, as his lovely music starts to roll across my voice, bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.